This world, due to the existence of magical power, gave birth to countless mystical beings. Because of magic, those with special powers to fight the creatures of darkness also awakened in this world. The Awakened. In a dark cave rested the triple S-class Dark Monster King, Belphegor of the Five Elements, a powerful monster with scales and horns that gave him a fearsome appearance. Before him stood the strongest squad of Awakened on Earth, the Divine Core. The young man with long hair leading the team was named Bai Yi. He had held this position for 10 long years. With a roar from Belphegor, numerous flying monsters sharing his traits advanced to attack Bai Yi and his group, the Divine Core. Bai Yi's group had only one mission, to clear the dark caves for the highest authority, the one called the Supreme Being. Raising his broadsword, Bai Yi was the first to attack, commanding his group, the Divine Core, to follow him. This was already the 100th high-level cave they had faced. A young woman carrying twin daggers was the first to obey Bai Yi's command. Her name was Ling Yue, a Class L Thunder Rogue. Obeying her captain, Ling Yue quickened her steps, her eyes bloodthirsty as she stared down the monsters. The mission the Divine Core was on had been designated as a Class L Purge operation, the highest difficulty level. Therefore, all necessary power would be used. The group's young cloud mage, Han Xiaoling, also Class L, immediately cast the spell Glacial World, freezing monsters and creating paths for the group to advance. The group used everything they had, such as buffs and magic, because after completing this last mission, they wanted to take a short vacation. Releasing a long smoke from his cigarette, a man cast a spell. Starfall, Gravitational Attraction. Lucian, the group's support and star conductor, made a powerful energy fall upon Bai Yi, strengthening his power by 200% and doubling his speed. With gravitational force increased 100-fold in his sword, his advance like lightning became even more powerful. The energy-filled strike tore through the air toward Belphegor. From the monster's head to its feet, the energy spread like branches, causing massive damage to every part of its body. And the one who launched the attack, Bai Yi, kept a restrained expression. Even when the chief monster before him exploded, ending years of a war period, he did not even smile. The commander of the Divine Core, the warrior Bai Yi, the nuclear saint of Class L, fulfilled his duty seriously. Thus, the Divine Core confirmed the elimination of Belphegor and the conquest of the 100th dungeon. Bored, the small mage stretched. We finished quickly once again. It wasn't fun at all. Seeing how young Han Xiaoling wanted more action, Ling Yue smiled. Later, I'll find some more dark caves for you to play with. The shadowy hooded support approached Bai Yi, commenting that this had been a high-grade mission, something that required the presence of the entire squad. Looking at the monsters around, he questioned his leader. Bai Yi, didn't this seem a bit too easy for you? Bai Yi thought for a moment while cleaning his sword, and reminded his support that, according to the intelligence team, there was a special Dark King with 5 elements and hidden abilities, and it was clearly the monster they had defeated. At that moment, Bai Yi felt someone put their arms around his neck. He blushed as he saw the curvy Ling Yue hug him from behind, whispering in his ear, "Captain, after we go on vacation, will you take everyone to a party, or should we celebrate just the two of us?" Pushing Ling Yue's face away from his neck, Bai Yi cleared his throat, looking away. "Let's all go together, to the usual place in the sacred capital." Though disappointed, Ling Yue kept a smile on her face, lamenting another failure. From a distance, Han Xiaoling felt jealous and cursed his captain. "Don't you understand women?" Bai Yi continued walking but soon stopped and looked back. "That guy, didn't he follow us?" Hearing the question, Lucian said he heard the man would take care of the cleanup, and reminded everyone that he hadn't even fought Belphegor alongside them. Ling Yue also commented on the guy, how he was always the slowest, and laughing, Han Xiaoling recalled how lazy that person had always been. At that moment, the person the group was talking about approached from a distance. Raising one hand, he spun a spell on the tip of his finger, the Purge operation. Behind his bone mask, he smiled faintly and began his attack. Before Bai Yi's group realized it, the young mage was struck on the back of the neck, unable to defend himself. The 3 remaining members of the group were shocked to see the attack. Xiaoling fell to the ground. He no longer moved. A voice echoed throughout the cave, reverberating. "This is the true mission the Supreme Being assigned to me." Energy coursed through Bai Yi's body, who gritted his teeth, trying to move. Impossible. The most he could do was tremble while holding his sword. The voice sounded again through the cave. "Your breakfasts last month were laced with paralyzing powder." Bai Yi could only look to the side, and something unexpected began to happen. The energy from that man spread across the cave floor, causing strong vines to rise. The vines moved, crawling across the ground, binding every member of the Divine Core. Keeping his distance, the perpetrator of the plan commented while watching them being tied up. "To eliminate the strongest among you, I needed absolute preparation." The vines removed the buffs from those they bound, making them drowsy as well. Gritting his teeth and struggling against the vines, Bai Yi shouted, "What are you doing? Have you gone mad?" The masked man paid no mind to Bai Yi's fury and proclaimed, "This is the Supreme's decree. The Class L purge operation means purging you all." The powerful vines pressed against Ling Yue and Lucian's bodies, who screamed in pain. Trapped by the same vines, Bai Yi could do nothing but watch what happened to his companions. Bai Yi's eyes showed fury and despair as he saw Ling Yue cough her last breath. With so many vines surrounding them, Bai Yi was powerless to save his companions from the one he once trusted so much. In rage, Bai Yi shouted, "Why? Why eliminate us? The Divine Core never took the wrong path. Which Supreme Being sent you to do this? By what right? By what right does he do this to us?" The bearer of the vines knelt slightly, making the vines rise, lifting Bai Yi along with them. Looking at his old friend, the man said, "You're still so naive." The man suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, his hand had already passed through Bai Yi. Being so close to the one eliminating them, Bai Yi asked, "When a Supreme Being wants to eliminate someone, does he need a reason?" With his last breath, Bai Yi asked, "But what about you? Weren't we comrades? Didn't 10 years together make us a family?" Pulling back his hand, the man mocked Bai Yi's words. "Comrades? Family? You still don't understand why I was chosen for this? Since our first meeting, the Supreme Being was already moving the pieces on the board, and we have always been pawns." Hearing those words, Bai Yi collapsed to the ground. His consciousness had not yet completely faded, and from the corner of his eye, he looked up at the white-haired man tied in a bun, wearing a bone mask and a brown leather coat. The man pointed his finger at Bai Yi's face, delivering his farewell. "Gaining your trust and playing this role for so long disgusted me." Bai Yi saw power accumulate on his ex-teammate's finger, and from there he saw nothing more. The power was unleashed, and Bai Yi's life ended. Leaving the 4 former comrades behind amidst the rotting vines, the man left the cave, reporting, May 22nd, 2025. Elimination of all members confirmed. Class L purge operation completed. Finally, time to take a vacation. Bai Yi's eyes still showed the shock and despair of his last moments. Around him, everything seemed calm, yet unexpectedly his body still trembled. Deep in Bai Yi's soul, he heard a voice. "Hey, let's make a deal." Bai Yi awoke in a dark place upon hearing the voice. Feeling his body bound by chains, he looked into the distant void. "Where am I?" Unexpectedly, he managed to walk through that void, accompanied by the chains, until a dark being, dressed in an elegant suit, appeared with a malicious look. "Hey, you there, handsome?" Bai Yi looked back, his eyes wide open. Around that man, 5 elements circled, revealing his identity, Belphegor. Bai Yi couldn't believe he was still alive. Scratching his ear, Belphegor mocked, "Hey, a triple S-class Dark King wouldn't be defeated so easily." Belphegor spread his arms, making the elements expand and reveal the place they were in, his soul domain. The entire Naye kingdom was his life force. Putting the conversation aside, Belphegor wanted to get straight to the main point. He could see in Bai Yi's eyes the same feeling he harbored, hatred. That was why Belphegor wanted to propose a transaction. Making his monstrous body reappear and releasing his aura, Belphegor pulled the chained young man close, revealing, "My secret ability is called life regression." He touched Bai Yi's shoulder, telling him the secret of the ability. "I can send you to a distant past, giving you the chance to redo everything, to change everything. Are you interested?" With a smile showing malice and revealing power, Belphegor made an offer he couldn't refuse. Bai Yi, head bowed, remembered Ling Yue, her smile, Han Xiaoling's laughter, Lucian's silent loyalty, and how they were all his friends. Finally, he recalled the smile of the one who betrayed them, as well as the last look on the faces of those he cared so much about. The chains binding Bai Yi loosened as he declared with a determined look, "I will destroy him, and those self-proclaimed supreme beings who sit on the highest throne." The words pleased Belphegor. He almost applauded, congratulating Bai Yi on his decision. "Very good. Your answer is as expected enough. Now let me give you one last gift." Belphegor extended a hand, and with the elements surrounding him, created a heart, a welcome gift for Bai Yi. Before accepting anything, however, Bai Yi frowned, asking, "What price do I have to pay?" Faced with the question, Belphegor only smiled, darkening Bai Yi's vision. Sometime later, Bai Yi heard a woman's angry voice trying to wake him. The young man slowly opened his eyes, facing a woman shouting at him, "Hey Bai Yi, get up!" He had been sent back to the year 2105. He was in the J-State Protectorate of the Holy Nation, the elementary division of the Academy of the Awakened. Surprised to have really returned, Bai Yi looked at his own hands and was shocked to see how young he was. He had returned to the time before his awakening. Despite Bai Yi's confusion, the teacher kept scolding him. "Bai Yi, sleeping during regular classes is one thing, but taking a nap right before the awakening ceremony is unacceptable. Go to the back of the classroom." Even seeing Teacher Huang up close, Bai Yi still couldn't believe where he was. Mouth agape, he was confronted with the fact that he had returned to high school. Having been reborn, He credited this feat to Belphegor's ability. Completely unbelievable. As he walked toward the back of the room, Bai Yi looked around. He hadn't seen those classmates for nearly 20 years. Once Bai Yi stood at the back of the classroom, the teacher slammed her hand on his desk, demanding everyone's attention. She continued the lesson explanation. There are 5 elemental powers in this world: lightning, flower, cloud, nuclear, and stellar, and each person can only contain one element. The teacher extended her hand, arrogantly showing the power she possessed, the rare cloud element. After displaying her element, she explained that depending on the element inside the body, each awakened individual would be classified into 3 categories: fighter, support, and special. The combination of the 5 elements with different roles created numerous classes. Recalling the strongest team at the academy, she mentioned they consisted of a stellar mage, a cloud warrior, a nuclear bard, and a lightning rogue. Facing the strength of this group, she warned the class, "I know you have already surpassed ordinary people by awakening your potential among millions. You have been praised since childhood at your peak, but today is the most important day of your lives. There are nearly 100 known awakened professions. They are classified into the ranks Dust, Shine, Abyss, and Celestial, and each of you can only awaken once." The pressure from the teacher's words made the students anxious. She put great intensity into every sentence. "This afternoon, when your profession is determined, your future status in the world will be decided." Standing at the back of the room, Bai Yi listened to the same explanation that had been buried deep in his mind. After leaving the classroom and walking through the school, he felt extremely nostalgic. This was the place where he had awakened. Suddenly, Bai Yi saw someone fall beside him, a bespectacled boy nicknamed Four Eyes. Just like the boy, Bai Yi also noticed a group of 3 seniors who looked more like delinquents. In the middle of them, a muscular blonde laughed. "Useless trash relying on artificial awakenings? You dare to block my way? You think you're something just because you're about to awaken?" The senior stepped on the bespectacled boy's hand and released his energy, mocking, "Before a rare abyss rank awakened like me, you will always be insects." Bai Yi remembered that guy. His name was Hong Qiangsheng, a stellar rogue of rank E with an unknown past. The bespectacled youth begged to be let go, hastily offering money to Hong Qiangsheng. This time, Bai Yi could observe Hong Qiangsheng more closely. This guy was always picking fights because he was born with some kind of supermasculine gene or something like that. Just as Qiangsheng's teasing was about to continue, Teacher Huang appeared. "That's enough. This is a school, not a robbery scene." Hong Qiangsheng was not intimidated by the teacher and mockingly replied, "Teacher Huang, he bumped into us. Isn't it fair that he compensates us by buying a soda?" Hong Qiangsheng waved the money in front of the teacher's face and whispered near her ear, "Want to play the heroine? If you weren't so pretty, you would have been fired a long time ago, you know?" The teacher quickly rushed to help the student up, ignoring the threats, while Hong Qiangsheng took his partners away, laughing. "Come on, we need to leave her with some dignity." Along the way, Hong Qiangsheng encountered a boy who, with his hands in his pockets, stared at him fearlessly. Laughing, he put his hand on Bai Yi's shoulder and pushed him aside. "What are you looking at? Get out of the way!" Taking his 2 friends away, he planned to come back later. Kneeling on the ground, the bespectacled youth apologized to the teacher, claiming that it was his fault. However, Teacher Huang knew perfectly well that he was not to blame for anything. Bai Yi observed the teacher, who always showed a tough side, although inside she had a soft heart. She had helped Bai Yi a lot in his past life after his awakening. At that moment, someone coming down the stairs waved to the teacher. "Teacher Huang, it's your class's turn to go to the awakening chamber." Teacher Huang quickly stood up and gathered her students, reminding them to stay calm during the awakening to avoid any injuries. Bai Yi followed his classmates, recalling the 2 awakening methods that existed in the world. The first was natural awakening, as had happened with Hong Qiangsheng. It usually occurred in people with strong physical constitutions or innate talent. It happened automatically during moments of intense emotion. The other type was through the awakening chamber. That was the crystallization of the expertise of countless scientists. Inside the chamber, emotions and adrenaline were intensely stimulated, forcing the awakening potential. However, since everyone only awakened randomly once, everything depended on luck. The first young man from Teacher Huang's class to awaken celebrated greatly upon receiving a profession from the blue tier, the Ember rank. Allowing him his moment of happiness, the teacher asked him to rest afterward. Knowing that awakening was considered practically a reset button, Bai Yi prepared himself when Teacher Huang announced that he would be next. As he met the teacher, Bai Yi was warned, "Focus! Don't doze off like you do in class, understood?" Coldly, Bai Yi passed by the teacher, replying, "I know." In his previous life, Bai Yi had awakened as a nuclear warrior of rank E, a dust rank profession, which led to constant mockery. Only upon reaching rank S would Bai finally awaken the rarest type. Remembering that he possessed the nuclear element, Bai Yi wondered which profession he would obtain this time. Upon entering the chamber, The young man saw many leaves flying around him, but soon something unexpected happened. An awakening error warning. The system revealed the reason for the error. 5 elements had been detected. Seeing such an error surprised Bai Yi. Quickly, he put his hand on his chest, wondering what was happening, as there was an intense heat inside him. At that moment, before Bai Yi's eyes, a notification appeared. Infinite Awakening System activated. A statistics window with the names of the 5 elements appeared before Bai Yi, along with a new notification. Because you possess 5 types of elements in your body, you can choose any class from the 5 elements as your starting class. Additionally, when a certain element reaches a sufficiently accumulated power, you will be able to choose to obtain a new random class for that element or evolve your original class. Confused and surprised, Bai Yi looked up, asking the system what that meant, what elemental accumulation was. Partially understanding what he was told, he asked, "Does this mean not only that I can choose my current elemental awakening and class, but also that I can obtain new classes in the future?" Thinking further, he questioned, "Will I be able to obtain the ranks Dust, Shine, Abyss, Celestial in all qualities, even that special quality class?" The system answered Bai Yi's question affirmatively, but reminded him that he could only choose one initial class. Subsequent classes would be acquired randomly. Bai Yi remembered his interaction with Belphegor. That sinister being had given him a gift, and Bai Yi finally realized he had brought that gift to the past along with him. Bai Yi imagined all kinds of abilities he could use, as well as the abilities of various awakened beings he had met during his life. Powers of fire, wind, powers that strengthened the body, the mind, as well as physical and magical skills. The Infinite Awakening's ability would give him the chance to try them all. While Bai Yi thought about the 5 elements, the system warned that after selecting the initial class, the bars of all elements would be reset. Therefore, he should choose carefully. Thinking about his first option, Bai Yi smiled slightly, a smirk that even somewhat resembled Belphegor. Outside, some students were already anxious, as Bai Yi was taking quite a long time, but soon they saw the boy leave the dark chamber. Teacher Huang ran excitedly toward Bai Yi. "What class did you awaken?" However, Bai Yi did not show the same excitement. He looked away. "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to disappoint you." He smiled, though maliciously, revealing, "I awakened as a nuclear warrior with the worst quality, green." A brief look of disappointment appeared on Teacher Huang's face, but she quickly recovered, trying to encourage Bai Yi. "It's okay. Even with green quality, many extraordinary people have emerged. Don't give up. This world can't stop you." Frowning, Bai Yi warned the teacher she didn't need to comfort him. However, with a serious look, Teacher Huang imagined the young man must be feeling terrible. She quickly pushed him out of the place, asking him to rest a bit, since the awakening must have consumed a lot of his energy. But at that moment, a laugh was heard nearby. Hong Qiangsheng mocked fervently. "How hilarious! While you work hard, the world won't stop? I remember the teacher being quite capable. How could she say something so useless and positively toxic?" Bai Yi glanced at Hong Qiangsheng out of the corner of his eye, not caring about the mockery. But Hong Qiangsheng didn't stop and attacked the teacher with his words. "You know very well, don't you, teacher? That reality is not as you said." With a mocking expression, Hong Qiangsheng approached Bai Yi. "Hey, the dust rank quality means you are at rock bottom. That's how the world is. The supreme beings choose people and they only choose the strong. The weak are humiliated." Imperceptibly, a frightening aura arose inside Bai Yi upon hearing Hong Qiangsheng mention such beings. Frowning, Teacher Huang asked why Qiangsheng was there again. Clearly, Qiangsheng was there to mock. "Of course you know, right? Those of dust rank quality can only sit in the last rows of classes from now on. Why? Because that's society. No power, no influence, no future. Always at the bottom, abandoned by justice. The powerful get the best resources, becoming even stronger. The moment you get the dust rank, the weakest awakening rank, your fate is sealed. You'll only get trash." Hong Qiangsheng never tired of boasting and mocking those weaker than him. What was that about changing your life with hard work? A dust rank being called a genius? Do you really believe those empty words? It's been like this since birth. Our academy is just a microcosm of society. Smiling maliciously, Chiang Xing got close to the teacher's face, asking if he wasn't right, reminding her that she, a shine rank, could only be at best a useless wage earner, working at a school. Shaking his soda cup, Chiang Sheng approached Bai Yi. "As for a dust rank, they should just go home early and stop wasting the government's resources." Tired of hearing the words of that bastard, Bai Yi quickly moved his hand, grabbing the soda cup and squeezing it. Before Chiang Sheng could realize, all the liquid had splashed onto his face. He coughed hastily, cursing, "Damn, what are you doing?" Bai Yi waved his hand quickly, drying it with the wind, and replied, "I don't like hearing you talk." Hong Qiangsheng smiled maliciously, deciding to get revenge. Furiously, he gathered a large amount of energy in his fist and charged at Bai Yi. Teacher Huang tried to hold him back, but she was too slow. Surrounded by purple energy, Hong Chang-sheng used the Ripping Star Strike, a basic attack of the Rogue Star class which increased his attack power. As he showed a malicious smile, his fist was already a few centimeters from Bai Yi's face. At that moment, Bai Yi, with his hand extended, released the golden energy of his class. Instantly, a sword of light was created, and wielding it, Bai Yi blocked the fist heading toward him. Hong Chang-sheng's smile turned into surprise, and soon he was confused as he was repelled. Bai Yi swung the sword, throwing Hong Chang-sheng backward. With a sharp gaze, Bai Yi executed movements that were millimetrically calculated. Hong Chang-sheng was thrown far away, sliding across the concrete floor. Everyone fell silent, watching the scene with surprised looks. Hong Chang-sheng suffered several internal injuries and painted the floor red as he coughed. Irritated, he raised his head, looking at Bai Yi. He couldn't understand what had happened, how the boy had managed to repel him. All the other students who witnessed the scene were shocked, jaws dropped. They didn't understand what had happened either. Bai Yi swung his sword and placed it on his shoulder, revealing, "I chose my own class." That sword of light was the result of the Nuclear Warrior class, which also provided 20 points of attack and evasion. He smiled maliciously, forming an aura. "I'm already used to it." Hong Chang-sheng forced himself to stand up, laughing. "You just got a bit lucky, you dodged only once." Chang-sheng twisted in anger. He was a rare abyss rank and considered himself completely different from people of lower ranks whom he saw as trash. However, Teacher Huang, properly trained, knew that it wasn't luck. She saw with her own eyes when Bai Yi used one of the best moves of the warrior class, the parry skill. Teacher Huang was still incredulous, as this move consisted of blocking damage at the exact moment a strong attack was received, and within an impossible reaction time, 9/100ths of a second, reflecting the physical damage back to the opponent. Teacher Huang, who had an incredible master, only saw him master this skill after 10 years of hard practice. She couldn't believe that someone like Bai Yi on his first awakened day, with no combat experience, had reached such a level. Completely upset, Hong Chang-sheng drew the bayonet of his class, which gave him 30 attack and speed, and laughed. "Ready to face your end, kid? You little piece of trash, I'll make you crawl before me in front of everyone." Bai Yi didn't care about Chang-sheng's enraged shouts. He had his own reasons for choosing this apparently weaker class. Coming from the future, Bai Yi knew that judging a person's destiny and life from birth would be a grave mistake that people of this era would only realize many years later. With Bai Yi holding a sword wrapped in his aura and staring at Hong Chang-sheng, who was consumed by rage, everyone wondered if they were really going to fight. Near Bai Yi, some students commented worriedly, "Using awakening powers for private fights is strictly forbidden at the school. Besides, Chang-sheng's father is a high-ranking official, and his uncle is the dean, while Bai Yi's family has neither money nor support." Hearing his classmates, the boy with glasses quickly turned to the teacher. "If he falls into the trap, he'll be expelled. Teacher, what are we going to do?" Teacher Huang sighed for a moment and stepped between the two, trying to calm them down. "Everyone just awakened today. You can be comrades and fight together in the future." However, the teacher's words only made Chang-sheng even angrier. With a look of disgust, he confronted her. "Are you kidding me? That trash just provoked me in front of everyone and you want me to let it go?" Maliciously, Chang-sheng pointed his energy-charged sword at Bai Yi. "It's useless, even if he kneels and begs for forgiveness. I will make him understand the difference between a chosen one and a loser. That difference is an insurmountable abyss." Teacher Huang, in a way, knew that Hong Chang-sheng was right. There was a huge difference between class qualities due to attribute bonuses. A dust rank class, like Bai Yi's, received 100% of the base attributes, which didn't really represent any change. She, who was in the glow rank, received a 150% attribute bonus, but those in the abyss rank received an impressive 200% attribute bonus. Awakening at the abyss rank, like Chang-sheng, meant having double the attributes compared to someone at the dust rank, like Bai Yi, an abyssal power gap that was impossible to overcome. The boy with glasses knew Bai Yi had no support, nor power, since he had just awakened. That's why he kept wondering why the young man was trying so hard to offend someone so much more powerful than him. He hated trash like Chang-sheng, but to survive in society, he believed there was no other way but to try to avoid them, because when it wasn't possible to get around them, they would trample on you, forcing humiliation all the time. Having already suffered from this, the boy with glasses knew that those who bowed and gave in could endure. Choosing direct confrontation would be the dumbest option, as only greater humiliation would be on the way. Before the teacher could intervene again, Chang-sheng leapt at Bai Yi, wielding his short sword and relying on his stat boost. The teacher could only extend her hand, shouting, "Bai Yi, watch out!" Teacher Huang watched Chang-sheng approach Bai Yi, wondering if the young man planned to block the attack again using the parry skill, which consumed a large amount of stamina. With Chang-sheng's speed and attack power, she didn't believe Bai Yi could withstand it. Seeing the boy not even move, Hong Qiangsheng put all his energy into the sword, believing he wouldn't block this time. Let's see if you can even dodge this. Hearing such foolish words, Bai Yi smiled, mocking Qiangsheng's thought. Why would I dodge? In the brief moment before the attack hit him, Bai Yi activated the speed skill, temporarily increasing his speed by 50%. Hong Qiangsheng's attack came down in a wide arc. However, it only struck Bai Yi's afterimage, which appeared behind him when he used the blink of light skill. When the speed skill reached 100% proficiency, the user could perform an instant flash to pass through objects. Qiangsheng was shocked to see nothing in front of him and wondered when Bai Yi had gotten behind him. Before Qiangsheng could turn to look at Bai Yi, he felt a large amount of liquid fill his mouth. With internal injuries, Hong Qiangsheng coughed heavily, feeling a sharp pain in his chest. Coughing and short of breath, Qiangsheng fell to the ground, clutching his chest in pain. Leaving him behind, Bai Yi smiled slightly. Trash should be thrown in the bin, not on the floor. As Bai Yi walked away from the scene, everyone present watched him, frightened. They didn't understand what they had just witnessed, because Hong Qiangsheng had simply fallen out of nowhere. The boy with glasses, who had been scared until then, held back a laugh. Hey, how did you manage to fall like that? Next to him, with a shocked look, the teacher tried to understand what had happened, as even she had never seen anything like that before. With them was a young woman with shoulder-length pink hair. Watching the whole situation, she frowned, deep in thought. At the moment Hong Qiangsheng attacked, Bai Yi once again activated his unique warrior skill, speed, and surprisingly, it was its advanced form, blink of light. However, she didn't understand what he had done in that brief moment to manage to hurt his opponent enough to leave him incapacitated on the ground. Someone dealing with their opponent so easily, with just one move, was not something Chi Yin, the class president, thought a rookie should be able to do. He had not only mastered the higher-level use of basic warrior skills, but also managed to apply them in real combat. As they watched Bai Yi walk away, those without deep knowledge attributed the humiliation to Hong Qiangsheng. What's wrong with him today? His opponent didn't even move. However, those who fully understood the situation realized that Bai Yi, besides handling his enemy in a fraction of a second, also managed to do so without breaking the school's rules. Impressed by him, Chi Yin wondered what had happened to their classmate. After dealing with Hong Qiangsheng, Bai Yi checked a few things. He had gained experience, 50 points for his class. Additionally, for landing a critical hit on an opponent of the Astro element, he earned 50 points in that same element. Compared to the 10,000 points required, those 50 points seemed very little to him. The only choice seemed to be to start clearing some labyrinths as quickly as possible to grow. Having recovered somewhat, Hong Qiangsheng tried to get up, glaring furiously at Bai Yi's back. You! Don't even think about running away! Qiangsheng gripped his sword and with his worst intentions charged at Bai Yi's back. But at that moment, a voice interrupted him. Enough! Qiangsheng looked back, grinding his teeth as he realized he was going to be reprimanded. A man in a suit arrived at the scene, frowning as he saw what was happening. His name was Hong Liang, director of the elementary division of the Awakening Academy. With a voice expressing his irritation, he scolded his nephew. Haven't you been humiliated enough for today? With a look seeking help to deal with the young man in front of him, Hong Qiangsheng tried to appeal to his uncle. However, Hong Liang ignored him and began dismissing the other students. It's the weekend. Go home and rest. Tell your families which professions you received upon awakening. Hearing the director say to go home, Bai Yi realized something. With a sharp look, Hong Liang stared at the boy. Don't you know that fights are strictly prohibited? However, Bai Yi didn't even notice his gaze as he was lost in thought. He had just been reborn and hadn't even been registered yet. A great surprise struck his mind when he realized that going back 20 years meant his parents were still alive. On the day of his awakening, May 22nd, 2105, something important had happened. Immersed in memories that left him increasingly shocked, he completely ignored the director, recalling something that was about to happen at that time. Hurriedly, Bai Yi started running toward the school gates. Furious, the director shouted at Teacher Huang, "You better control your students. I'll pretend nothing happened today and won't pursue this matter." Teacher Huang sighed, relieved, and bowed, apologizing to the director. Sometime later, Hong Qiangsheng followed his uncle to the director's office. Irritated, he held his chest, grinding his teeth. Damn it! If that boy hadn't been lucky, I would never have lost to him. Such words angered the director enough to slam the table. Nonsense! Do you even realize what that boy did to you? The moment he attacked, he used the high-level skill Blink of Light. Having witnessed the scene, the director recalled and told his nephew. More importantly, before using Blink, a fraction of a second before you hit him, he found the weakest point of your body and struck heavily, breaking all your defenses. Hong Liang startled his nephew by stating that the entire sequence of Bai Yi's movements had used only basic warrior techniques, even though he himself, with 15 years of battlefield experience, could not execute the same moves with such proficiency. The fight between the two was like a video game match. Chang Sheng's performance was as ridiculous as watching a professional player toy with characters controlled by elementary school students, using only basic techniques. For that reason, the director warned him, "That young man is not as simple as you think." Meanwhile, the topic of the conversation between uncle and nephew was quickly spreading through the city streets. Bai Yi entered alleys and narrow lanes with something very important on his mind. There was one thing he absolutely needed to do after returning, even before thinking about revenge. Arriving at a simple building with a tiled facade, Bai Yi finally stopped running. Panting heavily, he reached the place that held heavy memories, the place where he had witnessed with his own eyes his family's downfall before someone powerful. However, in this life, Bai Yi swore to prevent that from happening, at any cost. May 22, 2105 at 6:07 p.m., a comedy show was being broadcast on television. On the living room sofa, a man laughed heartily while watching. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, a tired woman washed the dishes. A young man arrived at the couple's house, Bai Yi returning from school. Upon seeing the boy, the man stopped watching TV and addressed him. "Oh, you're back. You finished class quite early today." Annoyed by hearing that man's voice, Bai Yi clenched his fist, holding back. He looked at the woman through the window separating the rooms and received a warm, motherly smile. Seeing his mother after so many years, tears welled up in Bai Yi's eyes, making them moist. There was no feeling greater than the happiness he felt seeing her alive. Bai Yi's mother called him close and using sign language made the gestures. "I made your favorite food, sweet and sour noodles." Bai Yi bit his lower lip, holding back tears, and smiled, asking his mother, "I would like to eat pickled fish today." Bai Yi's mother tried to tell her son they would go the next day since she had already made the noodles, but he begged, asking her to fulfill his request. In the end, Bai Yi's mother gave in, unable to say no to her beloved son. So she headed to the door to buy the fish, and Bai Yi followed. "Mom, I'll go with you." Before Bai Yi left, however, the man sitting in the living room called out to him, "Your mother can go alone. And what's the matter, boy? You came back from school and won't even say hi to your father?" The man stood up, remembering that this should be Bai Yi's awakening day. Approaching the boy, he leaned against the wall with an interested look. "Hurry up and tell me the good news." Bai Lingsheng suddenly grabbed some bottles. Raising them and exuding his red aura of a Class C electric warrior at level 26, with a 400% attribute bonus, he said, "I finished work early and came home just to celebrate with you." Lowering his head, Bai Yi replied, "But I didn't awaken today. Unfortunately, the awakening took too long. We couldn't finish on time." With a dark look, Bai Lingsheng questioned upon hearing the truth. "Then how did you come back so fast? Dalei's son awakened with a brilliance rank class. That father and son duo really has no value." Confidently, he declared, "My son of Bai Lingsheng, should be at least Abyss rank, right? Back then, I awakened at Abyss rank as if it was nothing." Darkly, he approached the boy, pressing him furiously with his aura. "I worked hard to support you. I put all my effort into your growth. So tell me, what is your class?" Bai Lingsheng released his red and oppressive aura, enveloping Bai Yi and the world around him in crimson. Bai Yi was about to reaffirm that he hadn't awakened when Bai Lingsheng moved quickly. One of the bottles he held struck Bai Yi on the head, spilling all the liquid over him. This led Bai Lingsheng to discover dust rank. The fury he contained overflowed, and opening his mouth surrounded by an unkempt beard, he began to yell, "You go to school pretending to study and you dare awaken as a useless dust rank? Are you trying to embarrass me?" Although the man in front of him was his father, Bai Yi knew him as someone who couldn't control his violent emotions. Already expecting the attack, Bai Yi was hit by a kick from his father. At that moment, he remembered his past life. That very day, he had awakened. After Bai Lingsheng discovered that he had awakened as a dust rank, feeling ashamed, he attacked him inside the house. Bai Yi's mother placed herself in front of him as she always did, determined to protect him with her own body. At that time, Bai Yi was just a fragile child, too scared to react, unable to take a single step to defend the woman he loved most. Bai Lingsheng, consumed by rage, struck with all his strength, and she was the one who bore the consequences. Since that day, Bai Yi's mother's legs remained immobile, and the blows she suffered to the head left her mind unstable. Now, in this second life, Bai Yi, who had taken the first blow although he was only level 1 and his aura was green, like that of a dust-rank nuclear warrior, did not feel the same fear as back then. He had chosen that class precisely because of the special attributes it would provide him, so he knew it would be necessary to endure and wait for the right time. Not satisfied, however, Bai Lingsheng ordered the boy to get up. The man in front of Bai Yi had a 400% multiplier on his stats, due to his rank and level, causing some of his attributes to exceed 600 points. Unlike Hong Qiangsheng from school, Bai Lingsheng was on a completely different level, besides having real combat experience. Bai Yi restrained himself, knowing he wouldn't be able to defeat Bai Lingsheng in a fight at that moment. Even when Bai Lingsheng grabbed him and threw him from side to side, Bai Yi felt satisfied because he had accomplished his goal, to get his mother out of the house until Bai Lingsheng vented all his accumulated frustration. But at the moment Bai Yi thought he had succeeded, he heard the sound of plastic bags falling to the floor. He looked back hurriedly and saw his mother, who had returned earlier than expected. Bai Yi, wide-eyed, wondered how she had come back so quickly. What he didn't know was that she had run as fast as she could to arrive in time, wanting to make sure her son wouldn't go hungry. Bai Yi's mother was frightened when she saw Bai Lingsheng walking toward her, visibly angry, as if trying to show that the son had been a disappointment. In a dark prison, a voice echoed from one of the cells. "I heard you were the first with a green rank profession to advance. Usually you need to be at least blue rank and reach A rank to enter the advancement stage. How did you manage to do it so early?" The young man in front of him remained silent, making the prisoner, who was calmly smoking, smile with curiosity. "And you even jumped directly from green rank to platinum rank, a rank only 1 in a million can reach. Tell me, why were you brought here? Only those with harsher sentences are sent to this place." Before the man speaking was a white-haired boy. With his gaze lowered, the young man replied, "He got what he deserved for what he did. How could he treat my mother that way?" Bai Yi's eyes grew deeply dark as he recalled that conversation from his past life. Immediately, he stood up and charged at Bai Lingsheng. However, Bai Lingsheng showed the strength of his red rank, and with a single arm movement, threw Bai Yi back to the ground, knocking him over the furniture. Bai Yi felt the impact of the strength of an experienced awakened, someone who, even without using skills, was much more powerful than an ordinary person. The blow he had just received would be impossible to endure without some kind of special enhancement. However, with only a green aura, he trembled trying to get up. Hurriedly, Bai Yi's mother ran to her son when she saw him thrown to the ground. She opened her arms, positioning herself in front of him to prevent Bai Lingsheng from attacking him again. At that moment, Bai Lingsheng closed the door, which had been open until then, and began to speak about the past. "Ruyun, the day I found out you were pregnant, I was really happy. I thought the chance for the Bai family to rise again had finally come. Those two useless ones couldn't produce an heir, but I, Bai Lingsheng, did." As he walked toward mother and son, Bai Lingsheng dragged a chair with him and, furious, shouted at his wife, "The Bai family still trusts me to bring glory to our ancestors, so why did he awaken with such a low green rank? A failure who can't even advance. This is all your fault." Overflowing with the malicious and intense energy of his abyss rank, Bai Lingsheng raised the chair he had grabbed, recreating exactly the scene Bai Yi had witnessed in his past life. But this time, he would not allow anything to happen to his mother. Using the technique Blink of Light, he placed himself in front of the wooden chair and struck it. With a quick blow, Bai Yi managed to deflect the attack, throwing Bai Lingsheng, along with the chair, backward. Deeply irritated, Bai Yi warned, "Don't touch her." Seeing the mark that Bai Yi's sword had left on his arm, Bai Lingsheng smiled. "Oh, interesting." Bai Yi's mother tried to protect him, wanting to prevent him from putting himself in danger, but her intention did not reach him in time. Cracking his neck, Bai Lingsheng seemed even more excited by the situation. "Oh, you're starting to stand out? Good, very good." With a malicious look, he walked toward Bai Yi, who held his sword firmly. The young man wanted to block Bai Lingsheng's path, but his father reached him before he could react. In the last split second, Bai Yi managed to use the parry skill, defending Bai Lingsheng's blow. However, his sword did not withstand the impact and broke. Bai Lingsheng's attack continued and hit Bai Yi hard, due to the huge power difference between them. Bai Lingsheng was level 26, and his attacks were reinforced by a 400% attribute bonus. Bai Yi felt his bones ache, but forced himself to keep his arms in front of his body, to protect himself, to protect his mother. Bai Lingsheng shouted furiously, "You dare challenge your father?" Releasing his red aura, he activated the heavy black lightning skill, increasing his speed and imbuing his strikes with electric shocks. Even in the face of those intense attacks, Bai Yi forced himself to stay standing. Bai Lingsheng's smile grew even darker, attacking mercilessly, but nothing, absolutely nothing, made Bai Yi retreat or dodge. Seeing the boy not give up, Bai Lingsheng paused for a moment. "You even have courage, but what good is that? Your profession is weak. You shouldn't even be here with something like that." No matter how much Bai Lingsheng criticized, the conviction in Bai Yi's eyes did not waver. He would do everything to ensure that, in this life, no tragedy repeated itself. Just as Bai Yi was determined to resist, Bai Lingsheng was determined to attack him. Raising a chair, he shouted, "Have you forgotten who's in charge here?" He was about to charge at Bai Yi and his mother, who held him so the still trembling son wouldn't fall, when loud knocks echoed on the door and someone outside shouted, "Open the door now!" Furious, Bai Lingsheng gritted his teeth. Damn, who decided to interfere now? Hearing the knocking on the door, Bai Yi felt immense relief realizing that help had arrived. Bai Lingsheng opened the door angrily, shouting, "Who is it? Why are you banging on my door like that?" However, in front of him stood two men in authority uniforms. Behind them was Chun Jinwoo, a rank C divine priest with a blue aura, and an investigative inspector. Ahead, with a serious look, was Liang, a rank A divine priest with a red aura, the deputy captain of the inspectorate. He was the one who questioned the man in front of him. Why did it take so long to open the door? What were you busy with? Surprised, Bai Lingsheng stood before the door, stammering, "Captain, what are you doing here?" Captain Liang extended his hand, showing a search warrant card, stating that they had received a tip that a wanted man named Snow had been seen on that street, so they were conducting a house-to-house search. Showing the portrait of the man with sparse beard, the captain asked Lingsheng if he had seen him. Laughing loudly, Lingsheng replied that he had seen the man, but only on television, adding, "I'll let you know if I see him around here." Looking inside the house over Lingsheng's shoulder, the inspector noticed something. A young man with a completely bruised face, next to his mother. Interrupting Lingsheng's laughter, the captain pointed inside the house. "Your son. How did he get like that?" Bai Lingsheng placed his hand on the captain's shoulder, trying to make up an excuse. "Ah, that careless kid fell while buying some sweets. Captain, don't worry about nonsense." However, Bai Yi would not let him lie and interrupted. "That's a lie. He attacked me." Hearing Bai Yi, Lingsheng couldn't believe he was actually telling the truth. About 20 minutes earlier, on the steps in front of Bai Yi's house, the young man found a public phone and called the authorities, reporting, "I saw someone entering the Ziyu building and he looks exactly like the wanted man Snow, who appeared on television." Bai Yi knew that the security teams would act with full patrol if they heard news about Snow, but he did not expect them to arrive so quickly, although it was the perfect timing. Frowning, the captain questioned if it was true, while Lingsheng acted defensively, claiming he would never hurt his own son, but Bai Yi wouldn't let him get away. He walked up to the officer, showing his body. "My arm was hit by a chair, and my head by a wine bottle. There were also punches and kicks. The injuries on my body can now be assessed as bodily harm." Coldly, Bai Yi reminded the captain, "For awakened who cannot control their violent instincts and deliberately harm others, Chapter 8, Article 4 of the Awakened Management Regulation of the Divine Canon clearly states that if the perpetrator poses a potential danger, he must be immediately detained and kept in the awakened prison for 15 days. The captain, as well as the young inspector Chen Jinwoo, were surprised by the boy's extensive knowledge of the laws. Furious, Lingsheng gritted his teeth, ready to attack Bai Yi again. At that moment, the captain inspector declared, "Bai Lingsheng, I am Inspector Liang and I am legally arresting you. You have the right to remain silent." Bai Lingsheng furiously tried to attack Bai Yi before being taken away, but Inspector Chun Jinwoo grabbed him. "Let's go. If you resist, we will take more severe measures." As the door closed, Bai Lingsheng shouted, "Bai Yi, just wait!" But he was taken away, powerless to do anything else. After closing the door, Bai Yi looked at his mother, trying to calm her. Ruyun ran to her son, hugging him tightly. Feeling the warmth and affection from his mother, Bai Yi returned the embrace, soothing her. "It's all right now." This time Bai Yi had protected his mother, as well as secured 15 days. He assured her, "Don't worry, this was the last time." Having time to become stronger, he swore he hadn't received such attacks for nothing. Amid defending against the attacks Lingsheng launched, Bai Yi managed to take the key to the safe that Lingsheng always kept with him. That was the key to the safe where everything Lingsheng had obtained by betraying his teammates without hesitation was kept, which also helped him rise from rank E to rank C. After calming his mother, Bai Yi entered Lingsheng's office, walking to a corner desk with 2 drawers. Behind it was a secret safe. Lingsheng hid his most precious item even from his own family. In his past life, Bai Yi only discovered this item after destroying Lingsheng, but now, obtaining it beforehand, he felt confident enough to try to attack the Dark Cave alone. At the current stage of humanity, only the Dark Cave could evolve professions, but all were under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Being, who allowed access only to guilds. The only Dark Cave Bai Yi could enter was the one managed by the school, as well as the hidden cave he had discovered in his past life. With the dagger obtained from Bai Lingsheng's safe, Bai Yi headed that night to the hidden Dark Cave, located beneath an abandoned building that emitted an extremely dark mist. Bai Yi's goal was clear, to be the fastest and surpass everyone else. That night, May 22nd, in the detention room of the inspectorate, the guards were talking among themselves. They were tired after a patrol where even the chief delegate had been dispatched with the entire security team. Although the tip had been a false alarm since the matter was related to rebels, they couldn't relax. Looking at the wanted poster on the table, one of the inspectors, Chen Jinwoo, commented, "If Snow really is in our country on the day of the group's celebration, it would be a big event. By the way, I heard the captain will return earlier this time, right?" Hearing the question, Liang couldn't answer, as it wasn't a matter he could discuss. While the guards chatted calmly as if he didn't exist, Bai Lingsheng began banging on the bars of his cell. Chief Delegate, please show leniency. This is the first time. I won't do it again. Smiling, Bai Lingsheng tried to bribe the delegate. I heard the delegate's wife is about to give birth. My good friend opened the best postpartum care center in Chuxi County, you know? The delegate stood up irritated. Are you still trying to buy us off? You used to be a guild member. Don't you have any idea what your fate will be tomorrow? As he asked, Delegate Liang left the station to go away. Trembling, Bai Lingsheng couldn't respond or imagine what would happen, but Inspector Chun Jinwu, who was also leaving, warned and recommended, if the bribery attempt is discovered, you won't just be detained. Rest early. Tomorrow you will be transferred to the awakened prison. Slamming the door, Chen Jinwu advised, just stay quiet for a while. Furiously, Bai Lingsheng grabbed the bars, swearing revenge against Bai Yi. Unaware that her son had left, Bai Yi's mother slept peacefully. He had left a note on his own bed, warning that he would return soon. In 15 days, Bai Lingsheng would be released from incarceration, so before that, Bai Yi needed to become as strong as possible. And for that, the dark caves were his only option. The caves could appear anywhere. They were parallel spaces to another world. Passing through a door that appeared in mid-air would take people to them. Most of the dark caves, once detected, were camped by guild groups seeking to take advantage of them. The caves contained a large number of dark beasts, as well as resources, such as crystals, making them the best options to enhance the skills of the awakened. However, the dark caves were extremely dangerous, and usually required a group to conduct an official inspection in order to determine their level. While walking through the rooms of the building, Bai Yi approached the true entrance of the cave, which in his previous life was only reported in the news 5 years after the year he was in, since it had remained lost for a long time and never detected. It was only discovered when the dark beings managed to force their way out, invading the human world. A rank F dark cave normally required 3 rank E awakened for exploration. A rank E cave required 5 people, 2 of whom had to be rank D. Based on time estimates, Bai Yi calculated that the cave he was about to attack had a 90% chance of being rank F. This was the lowest level of dark cave he could access at the moment. After calculations and reflections, Bai Yi pushed open a door and found the entrance to the cave, which had an extremely dense crimson mist. The caves were full of danger and required cooperation among various members and teams of different classes to increase the chance of victory. But Bai Yi had no other choice. His gaze showed determination to become stronger and the will to surpass his limits to advance as fast as possible. With the aura of the nuclear warrior overflowing his body, Bai Yi entered the dungeon of unknown rank. Upon entering the dungeon, he noticed he was in an area full of ice and snow. This worried him a bit, fearing he was in the domain of cloud-type magical beasts. Walking through the dungeon, where rocky peaks extended amid the snow, Bai Yi did not realize he was being watched. Continuing to walk, he soon found something. In front of him was a huge bear with ice spikes protruding from its body. On the ground near the bear were several skeletons, proof that others had been there before. With vast knowledge, Bai Yi recognized the beast before him, the Icefield Bear, a rank E8 magical beast, which was hibernating. At that moment of distraction, a beast in the snow lunged at Bai Yi. The protagonist, realizing the 10% chance of entering a rank E dungeon had come true, quickly turned around, facing the Blood Forest Wolf, a cloud-type magical beast, higher level than his, that opened its mouth fiercely to devour him. Having noticed the wolf's presence in time, Bai Yi managed to retreat. However, as soon as he landed after the leap, the forest wolf refocused its attention on him. The wolf attacked again, forcing Bai Yi to defend himself with the dagger, stopping the beast's advance. Managing to push it back, Bai Yi swung his sword, lightly hitting it. But that was not enough to stop the hungry wolf, nor was it all Bai Yi had to show. Taking the initiative, the protagonist charged at the beast, with a look as sharp as the dagger he carried in his hand. With a wide strike, Bai Yi managed to pierce the beast with his sword, killing it with a single blow. Thus, Bai Yi destroyed his first enemy in the dark cave of this life. The secret weapon he had obtained was rank A, something that could not even be acquired in shops. Thanks to it, he had closed the gap in combat power he lacked. The Hunwu blade was extremely sharp. It granted its user 150 points of strength, 100 points of stamina, and 50 points of luck, as well as 20% lifesteal and 20% armor penetration. Since the beast's defense was very high, Bai Yi found himself forced to attack them at least 3 or 4 times to defeat them, if he failed to hit a vital point. All this complication made the young man miss his days as a rank L. Observing the experience points he gained, Bai Yi discovered he would need to defeat at least 20 wolves to level up his rank E profession, and at least 10 levels to rise from rank E to rank D. While thinking about defeating more wolves, Bai Yi heard some growls directed at him. This time, not just one wolf appeared, but a pack of forest wolves. All were cloud-type beasts, level 2, slowly approaching, surrounding him with the threatening calm of those who have already chosen their prey, a prey that still had no idea of its fate. Surrounded, Bai Yi realized the scent of the first wolf's blood had attracted several others. However, even against a pack, he was not afraid and prepared to return the fate the wolves wanted to impose on him. Bai Yi used the most common technique to break the ambush surrounding him. He attacked first, moving quickly. Bai Yi's first strike hit one of the wolves in a vital spot, dealing a critical blow that made it lose what was above its neck. Immediately, two other wolves attacked Bai Yi upon seeing one of their companions eliminated, but the protagonist was alert enough to dodge them. At the same time, he swung his sword, launching a counterattack on one of the wolves, which grunted heavily as it was struck by the blade wrapped in light. Bai Yi continued fighting the wolves, hitting their vital points for critical strikes, dodging and counterattacking the pack that had decided to ambush him. Looking from side to side while fighting, Bai Yi reached a decisive moment in the battle, where just one more attack would end the fight. Bai Yi spun his whole body, advancing toward a group of wolves that were already damaged. Moving like a sinuous lightning bolt, Bai Yi managed to hit each of the forest wolves that had previously attacked him, defeating them simultaneously and gaining the experience points they could provide. Not one or two wolves were defeated with that advance, but at least 10, which made up the pack. With the monsters eliminated, Bai Yi received their drops, 18 snow wolf fangs. However, not all the wolves had been defeated. Their leader, the bloodthirsty Wolf King, the elemental beast of level attribute level 4, still roared toward Bai Yi. Drawing his sword in the air, the protagonist charged at the beast, his gaze, as sharp as his sword, aimed at several weak points. Bai Yi seemed to disappear from where he was, and subsequently only flashes of light belonging to the sword were seen, tearing through the air and hitting the wolf from multiple angles, making it suffer until finally being eliminated mid-air. As a reward for his hard work, Bai Yi received the Light Wolf Diamond, but more importantly for him, he successfully evolved to rank D. His experience points surpassed the 1,000 he could get at level 1. Upon reaching level 2, he received 12 attribute points, which he could allocate as he wished. Observing the notifications, Bai Yi closed them while sighing. He had defeated only 20 wolves but was already exhausted due to his low stamina. He had fought using a rank E body, which had a small stamina pool, but it was not time to rest. Bai Yi needed to collect all the items dropped by the wolves, which made him desire a dimensional backpack, because if he didn't get one, at some point he would be forced to abandon many items in his hunts. The dark caves were monopolized and required teams to attack them, therefore invading them alone was extremely difficult. At least they were rewarding. The proof of this was the Light Wolf Diamond, a red crystal Bai Yi held in his hand. Extremely durable, it was used as raw material for equipment crafting, and its value approached 2,000 yuan. If Bai Yi wanted access to higher-level dark caves, he would need to join a guild of the Divine Core. That was the only option. Awakening schools are institutions subordinate to guilds, intended to recruit talents for their teams. For most students, their greatest dreams were to graduate with excellence and be recruited by a guild. However, those awakened who were expelled from their teams would never progress again in life, like Bai Ling Sheng, who remained at rank C forever after being expelled. Bai Yi was finding solo hunting extremely difficult. Moreover, he felt freezing, and the longer he stayed inside the cave, the more stamina he spent. Seeing that a new pack of wolves had appeared, he made a decision. Bai Yi began running in one direction, attracting the wolves to follow him. He entered a forest and while swinging his sword knocked down trees. The wolves pursuing him ran along the path he had passed, unaware of what his actions would cause. Seconds after the attacks on the trees, they began to fall, awakening other beasts living in the forest. A giant dark viper was attracted, as well as several other snow wolves. After being chased by so many monsters, Bai Yi finally stopped. He sighed lightly, exhaling warm air that became mist in the cold atmosphere. The protagonist had managed his actions as quickly as possible, attracting dozens of elemental beasts, both wolves and vipers, that surrounded him, giving him no escape route. As soon as the beasts thought their prey had finally been cornered, a powerful explosion happened in the treetops, frightening the monsters. Bai Yi knew the noise he had caused had awakened all the beasts, including one in particular. A giant monster was walking furiously, crushing everything in its path with its sharp-clawed paws. The forest bear, awakened by the noise, was in an enraged state. It would attack indiscriminately anyone who crossed its path, causing extra damage, just as it did to the wolves in front of it. Raising one of its front paws, the bear powerfully struck the ground below, causing a tremor that threw all the beasts around it far away. Bai Yi, who was no fool, moved at the same moment, attacking wolves and vipers that had been damaged thanks to the bear's attack, to gain their experience points. On one side, the bear attacked indiscriminately. On the other, Bai Yi, surrounded by monsters, only needed to dodge and wait for an opportunity to reap the rewards. With his sword imbued with his energy, Bai Yi continued to attack in sync with the furious strikes of the bear awakened by the noise. Although the rank E beasts were malicious, most of them were not very intelligent. Not only had the bear attracted the monster's attention, but it also allowed Bai Yi to save a lot of his stamina to keep leveling up until he reached level 4. However, there was one thing he needed to do if he wanted to maximize his experience points. Focusing on a python, he executed his move, delivering the final blow to the monster, thus securing its loot. Even with the chaos caused by the bear, dozens and dozens of monsters kept appearing, their malicious eyes focused on the frail human before them. Despite the bear's help, Bai Yi was panting, growing tired, and this was a sign to move on to the next phase of his plan. He raised his sword, pointing it downward. After so much destruction, the terrain's capacity was close to the limit it could support. Sighing for a moment, Bai Yi remembered that the ice layer they were standing on was above countless sharp peaks, ready to impale anything that fell upon them. The furious bear charged at the monsters clustered near Bai Yi, and it was at that moment the protagonist struck the ice ground with his sword. Quickly, cracks spread across the ice, which began to break apart. He had perfectly analyzed the terrain during the battle and discovered that this was not a frozen lake, but an ice bridge suspended between two cliffs. The monsters began to fall into the bottomless abyss, being eliminated as they hit the walls or the spikes waiting for them in the darkness. Countless experience points appeared in the notifications Bai Yi received. He quickly reached level 7 as he walked among the crystals from the wolves and vipers. That had dealt with most of the beasts, but not the bear and the larger creatures. Bai Yi still needed to deal with those stragglers with his remaining stamina. Bai Yi had never evolved so quickly in his life, and for having fought numerous enemies at once, he earned the title 1 against 100, which increased his attributes by 10%. For a long time, Bai Yi had always thought about one thing. Every dark cave had a boss monster, a final boss. For a rank E cave, the boss should be something like a brutal rank E10 Lion King. However, confused, Bai Yi wondered if all the noise he had caused had not been enough to awaken such a boss, or why it had not appeared yet. While waiting, the bear and the surviving wolves stared at him with hungry eyes. They began to roar and growl, and soon Bai Yi realized the reason. An ice-type spell appeared, sweeping across the entire area toward the beasts, and also toward him. Seeing the spell, Bai Yi realized he had been wrong about the boss monster. That monster was not sleeping. It was waiting for the perfect moment to move, waiting until everyone was exhausted. The ice spell covered the whole field, freezing wolves and the bear in huge blocks of ice. Bai Yi tried to be quick and escape the wave of ice, but he was not agile enough, and his foot froze to the ground. He saw the ice climb up his leg and slowly spread across his body. Soon he, standing at the edge of the precipice, realized the truth. That ice bridge had always been part of a trap. The boss had prepared it to appear at the end of the battle and reap all the rewards. Gritting his teeth, fury appeared in Bai Yi's eyes when he discovered something was hidden in a low-level cave. Soon he saw the highly intelligent boss walk toward him, accompanied by several snow gorillas. The level 10 King Monkey Kanglin smiled maliciously as he trapped his prey, who was slowly freezing, awaiting his farewell. May 23rd, the year 2105, Saturday, 2:10 in the morning in the secret dark cave of rank F, Bai Yi found himself frozen by the enemy. Still conscious, even frozen, he could feel that hypothermia was soon to come because of the cold. The dark monkey chief slowly raised his finger, pointing at the frozen young man, and at his command, his subordinates advanced swiftly. One of the monkeys covered the distance between him and Bai Yi in a matter of seconds. Bai Yi found himself with no alternatives but to bet everything. The monkey swung his club, launching a sideways attack at the young man like a powerful whip. The club quickly approached Bai Yi, who at the last moment broke the ice. The snow monkey's attack fell where Bai Yi had been, causing a loud crash. However, even the monkey chief was surprised by the result. Bai Yi had broken the ice and deflected the snow monkey's attack, causing the damage to bounce back to the monster. Despite managing the counterattack, Bai Yi felt internally wounded. He had summoned all his energy to break the ice, but drained a large amount of stamina in the process. Wiping the corners of his mouth, Bai Yi stared at the monsters angrily. Knowing the boss would need some time to cast such a powerful spell again, he planned to finish off all the enemies in the meantime. As if energized, the monkey chief raised his hand imbued with dark power. Raising his hand, he clenched his fist tightly. As a result, the freezing magic was cancelled, releasing the large bear as well as the wolves, who roared furiously, seeing Bai Yi as their enemy. The protagonist gritted his teeth as the situation worsened. Carrying a dark aura, the unstable icefield bear rose before him, showing the imposing size it had. Faced with such a monster, Bai Yi tried to imagine what he could do. His core element was naturally countered by the bear's cloud element, and with low stamina and the number of enemies he had to face, the situation became even worse. From the dark cave lord, the blue forest monkey master, as well as the unstable bear, the dark wolves, and the snow monkeys, Bai Yi found himself surrounded and powerless. Seeing his chances of survival drop to near zero, Bai Yi was attacked by one of the monkeys, who launched a club strike at him, forcing him to block with his sword. At the same time he defended himself, Bai Yi spotted another snow monkey running toward him. The second monkey launched a joint attack, but at the last moment the protagonist managed to escape, retreating to a greater distance. He gritted his teeth in frustration as he saw his strength draining more and more. The monster showed no mercy. Like a white avalanche, the unstable bear roared as it brutally charged toward Bai Yi, who was still kneeling and recovering. The protagonist could do nothing but keep gritting his teeth. Swinging its massive body, the bear hit the protagonist with its front paws. Bai Yi was thrown far away, but his landing was softer than it could have been. Still, Bai Yi found himself without stamina and cold, and before him was an army of hungry dark monsters, cornering him like a small helpless prey. Above them all, the monkey chief smiled, rejoicing at the scene. Raising his staff, the blue forest boss monster used a spell to make countless ice blocks appear. A storm of ice was being created once again. Looking up, Bai Yi was stunned. He did not expect the monkey lord's ability cooldown to be so fast. Despite the surprise and fear, a determined look returned to Bai Yi's face. In his past life, he had often faced all kinds of terrible situations. Through countless challenges, he developed a sense to recognize opportunities. In his current situation, he saw two options. The first was to stay and fight with his stamina in critical condition. However, facing an ice storm and fighting dozens of monsters would make his chance of survival less than zero. With a determined look, Bai Yi chose the second option. He turned, running away from the falling ice blocks, and jumped over the abyss. In mid-jump, a thin layer of ice still caught his foot. The ice chased him, freezing Bai Yi in mid-air. The monkey chief was surprised, as he did not expect his prey to try to escape. The wolves and bear were also surprised, because now frozen, Bai Yi was falling toward the abyss, his end as a cube of ice falling into a dark pit. Wrapped in ice, Bai Yi fell into complete darkness, quickly approaching the bottom of the valley where countless animal remains rested. The next morning, upon waking, Bai Yi's mother went to his room to wake him. She did not believe he would be sleeping late just because it was the weekend. However, surprise and confusion appeared in her eyes when she discovered her son was not in his room. At 10 in the morning, Bai Yi's mother entered the room, seeing the bed made with a note on top of the blanket. On the note, written by Bai Yi, it said, "Mom, I went to a friend's house. I won't be back late, don't worry about me." However, the mother believed that if he was really just going to a friend's house, he would have told her, not just left a note. Sighing, she wondered what was happening with her little Bai Yi. Since Bai Yi had returned home the day before, she felt as if he was acting like a completely different person. This caused great discomfort inside her. Inside the dark valley, many marks of suffering could be seen everywhere. A small stream of thawed water ran silently below the place where the ice bridge had broken, causing more than 100 magical beasts to fall. Coughing heavily, Bai Yi managed to hold on to one of the stalactites outside the river, pulling himself out while remembering he had only evolved 3 times by eliminating the monsters that had fallen into the abyss. Coughing, he made some quick calculations. Evolving 3 levels meant about 60 of those beasts had been eliminated, meaning around 40 had survived. Before jumping into the abyss, Bai Yi already knew there should be a river, since part of the beasts had survived, so he took that as his only chance of survival. However, breaking the ice that surrounded him once again practically exhausted his stamina, causing several negative effects such as weakness and loss of strength to hit him. Besides that, falling from such a height caused massive damage to Bai Yi's body. With his body cooling more and more, he found himself at his limit, too weak to even stand up. Slowly, his eyes closed. While Bai Yi seemed to be at his limit, a shadow slowly approached him. Carrying sharp fangs and a thirsty tongue, the Glacial Sovereign, the level 9 feral cloud element tiger, one of the strongest beasts that had survived the fall, walked with an expression of extreme fury toward Bai Yi. At the same time, oblivious to the extreme dangers, various memories appeared in the protagonist's dreams. Carrying a cup, a man roared, "You brat, you came back and didn't even invite me for a drink." With open arms, Ling Yue offered a warm hug, like only she could. On the other side, the lively Han Xiaoling, carrying her books, called Bai Yi to eat together. In front of a bulletin board, the mysterious Lucian also appeared in the memories. "Bai Yi, do you know what this data means? Come take a look." His worried mother appeared in his memories, always wanting to take care of him. Just as good people appeared, evil beings also showed up in Bai Yi's mind. The monkey chief, the one who had made him fall into the abyss, as well as Bai Ling Sheng, and lastly, the one who betrayed his group, those who wanted to put an end to his journey. Remembering those who cared for him as well as his enemies ignited the flame of life inside him. Regaining consciousness, Bai Yi clenched his fist, affirming to himself that he would not be stopped by limits. It seemed too late, however, as the glacial sovereign tiger attacked him with the intention of devouring him in one bite. But before the tiger could realize, two hands had already grabbed its jaws. Startled, the tiger looked at Bai Yi, who said to him and himself, "All the regrets I had in my past life, I absolutely will not let them happen again." Applying all the remaining strength in his body, Bai Yi made the tiger tremble. In a mixture of fury, conviction, and courage, Bai Yi shouted, "I've lost everything once. I've even seen my life flash before my eyes, and that will not happen again." Spinning his body quickly into a kick, Bai Yi struck the glacial sovereign tiger squarely, making the wild, dark beast's fangs fly away, as well as the tiger's body fall like a kite that lost its string. Throwing the tiger away, Bai Yi knelt down. Though tired, he sighed, exhaling warm air that froze just a few centimeters from his face. Around Bai Yi's body, a yellow aura appeared. The glacial sovereign had not yet been completely defeated, and other monsters began to surround him again. However, only in desperate situations could a class advancement happen. Choosing to enter the dark labyrinth alone, attracting beasts even stronger than himself, jumping into an abyss, and constantly throwing himself into unexpected situations, like facing a pack of beasts, wolves, and bears. All of this had been planned by Bai Yi in advance. He had done all this, risked so much just to recall the feeling from his past life, where he experienced extreme despair, stimulating his adrenaline to the maximum as he remembered the moment he lost his mother and eliminated Bai Ling Sheng from his life. Little by little, adrenaline was produced, reaching alarming peaks inside Bai Yi, bringing an extremely familiar feeling. At every moment, functions in his class went through advancements, and attempts to improve his class happened, though they failed, but repeated in an endless adrenaline cycle. Although he could not advance his class, Bai Yi gained something, the acquisition of an ultimate skill much earlier than he should have. Extending the hand carrying his sword, he let the dense aura of his body overflow. Having learned advanced sacred nuclear fencing skills, Bai Yi was ready to face the dark beasts head-on once again. Furious at feeling the powerful energy of his prey, the glacial sovereign, who had lost part of its sharp teeth, roared furiously, trying to intimidate him. But it was useless against Bai Yi, who, moving his body, brought the sword with his right hand over his left arm, executing the stance of the sanctuary skill. All the beasts charged at the protagonist at once. Bears and smaller wolves joined forces, attacking him from behind while he faced the glacial sovereign. However, spinning his body and releasing all the energy gathered in the sword, launching an energy slash, Bai Yi unleashed the skill that threw all the monsters away. His face might have seemed cold and emotionless, but he was extremely satisfied with the result he achieved. The monsters around Bai Yi were torn apart, all by the single attack he launched, granting him experience points as a reward. All around the abyss, the monsters rested after being eliminated by the sanctuary energy attack. Bai Yi felt the power of experience overflow in his body and, while collecting his rewards, leveled up as the sanctuary activated its second effect, eliminating all fatigue from his body and also restoring all his stamina. Having eliminated the glacial sovereign and obtained the title Icefield Wanderer, which would reduce damage taken from freezing attributes, Bai Yi prepared for the next step. Looking up at the top of the abyss, he swore, "I'm coming back to hunt you." Bai Yi left the small wolves behind after ensuring they had all been eliminated. After having reached level 8, he now felt that defeating monsters of the same class E had become extremely easier. Because of the damage reduction against freezing attributes, he didn't even feel cold anymore. The sanctuary skill Bai Yi used earlier accumulated all damage suffered, releasing it against a group of enemies, but could only be activated after accumulating a large amount of fatigue and damage. Now recovered thanks to that skill, he walked to the cliff wall, beginning to climb it. Bai Yi didn't know how long he had been in the labyrinth, but he knew he urgently needed to return, or his mother would start to worry. Somewhere within those frozen plains, there was a small cabin where a monkey mage rested. As he sat on his throne, his subordinates, snow monkeys, hung upside down along the cabin. The monkey chief, eyes closed, rested normally until he opened them upon sensing a presence. Before he could react, a strong attack fell on his house, knocking down part of the roof. Stepping on another bear he had defeated on the way, Bai Yi faced the monkey chief. "Looks like we meet again." At the window of the house at 11 o'clock at night on the same day, Bai Yi's mother wondered where in the world her son was. Worried, she questioned why he still hadn't returned. The food was ready, waiting for him, made by the mother who wished for his well-being. While a worried mother waited at home, the monkey chief's residence was being attacked by his son. With the roof collapsing, the snow monkeys, who were hanging upside down, were startled. They quickly straightened up, drawing their clubs to check what was happening. Outside, a large snow bear lay on the ground, already motionless after having knocked down part of the house. On top of the bear was Bai Yi, who stared at the monkeys, greeting them without any fear in his eyes. We meet again. Outside the monkey house, several wolves lay fallen, monsters Bai Yi had defeated before facing them. The monkeys stood still, waiting for their master's order, who until then was seated. Then the monkey master raised his finger, pointing at the young human. Immediately, the first snow monkey moved, jumping onto the bear where Bai Yi was. He swung his club, as he had done the last time they met. However, this time a gleam of power appeared in the depths of the protagonist's pupil. Bai Yi swung the Hunwu blade, blocking the attack, and brandished it, eliminating the snow forest monkey with a single strike. Seeing one of his subordinates eliminated so easily, the monkey master was surprised. Furious at having lost a subordinate, he extended his staff toward Bai Yi, using his magical power. Once again, his characteristic attack took form. A storm of ice was created, falling upon Bai Yi. But this time, things had changed. Bai Yi advanced against the ice storm with an immunity effect on his body. With cloud element resistance activated and freezing damage mitigated, Bai Yi closed the distance between himself and the monkey chief in an instant. Immediately, the monkey chief looked at the cloth bag he carried. From the bag, he took out an ice magic that wrapped around a crystal staff. With that magic, the monkey mage chief created several new ice monkeys to defend him, positioning them between himself and the young human. However, Bai Yi's objective hadn't changed. Using a flash of light, he passed through the new ice monkeys, heading toward his target. He only needed to eliminate him to be able to glimpse Class D. With a powerful attack, Bai Yi made the dark monster lose what he used to hold the staff. Staff and hand flew away together, while the monkey chief, open-mouthed, looked at his wounded arm. The monkey chief managed to recover his staff, holding it with the other hand, but now he only had one left, as he lamented seeing that the other no longer existed. However, the monkey chief stopped yelling as he remembered the human was still a threat. With a cold look, Bai Yi stared at the monster and said goodbye. Farewell. Spinning his body for another attack, Bai Yi unleashed a flurry of cuts which the Dark Labyrinth chief could neither resist nor block. Turning his opponent into minced meat, Bai Yi defeated the Blue Forest King, gaining 1,000 experience points. With that, Bai Yi advanced to Class D of the Nuclear Warrior, frightening the other monkeys around. For having advanced in class, Bai Yi gained an additional 100% bonus to his attributes, and he received a notification. Items are waiting to be picked up. Cloud element has been sufficiently accumulated. A new profession is about to be awakened. Having fought all this time, Bai Yi had forgotten he was always accumulating attribute points from the monsters he defeated. A new energy began to flow through Bai Yi's body when a new notification appeared. Rank Red Profession, Cloud Element Mage, Level 1, Class E. You can switch classes at any time. Having received a red class among all random options, Bai Yi was surprised. Even still at rank E being Level 1, it already had 200% attribute bonuses. It would already be on the same level as his current warrior class at rank D, which gained 100% bonus twice. Besides the class he obtained, Bai Yi also gained the Class D mage weapon, the Magic Stone, which the monkey chief had dropped. This item increased elemental power and spiritual attribute by 40 points, as well as expanding the area of effective spells by 50%. Lastly, the cloth bag the monkey chief left behind, his pouch, could carry a maximum of 20 items, functioning as a spatial storage. The ice monkeys curiously watched Bai Yi, trying to understand his next move. Bai Yi took the staff and the pouch, then faced the ice monkeys, frightening them. This time, carrying a red aura, Bai Yi smiled maliciously. He extended his hand, commenting to himself, "There are still some small flies left in this place. Let me test this new class I've never played before." With a malicious smile carrying the energy of a red class, Bai Yi used the power of the Cloud Element Mage. May 24th, 5 in the morning. Bai Yi's mother remained in the living room, waiting for her son. She had neither eaten nor slept, waiting for the one she loved most. Although weak, she still held hope that nothing had happened to her son. Unaware of what was happening outside, Bai Yi opened the door of the house. Hearing the door noise, the mother, who had already lost hope, raised her head. She hurriedly got up with a worried look full of expectation to see her son once again. Upon entering, Bai Yi, oblivious to his mother's desperate feelings, apologized. "Mom, I'm sorry for making you wait so long." Before he could finish speaking, Bai Yi felt his mother's tight embrace, who shed tears of relief. Understanding what was happening, Bai Yi tried to calm her. "You've been waiting for me all this time? You didn't even eat." With a look carrying some secrets, Bai Yi asked, "Mom, I have a proposal to make. Would you like to hear it?" Using the magic pouch, in addition to the essential weapon he had obtained, Bai Yi also collected dozens of valuable items. Sometime after returning, he met with a buyer who examined one of the magic stones he had collected. The man, who looked more like a loan shark, inspected the stone with a malicious smile and made his offer. "I can pay 800 for this stone." Claiming he wanted 8,000, Bai Yi took the stone from the man's hand, who, startled to see the item disappear, shouted, "Are you kidding me? You want all that for a small core like this?" Seeing the young man turn to leave, the man hurriedly offered 2,000. "I'll take them all if you sell them for 2,000 each." Faced with the new offer, Bai Yi countered, 5,000 each. With the negotiation underway, the man raised his offer to 3,000 per stone as his final bid, which only made Bai Yi increase the price to 6,000. When the man tried to bargain further, Bai Yi dared to say 7,000. Before the young man could raise it again, the man, fearing losing the precious items, desperately accepted. In his past life, after making some profit, Bai Yi had met some magical ore brokers to whom he could sell his stones at a good price. Counting the money he had earned, Bai Yi imagined he could rent a nice place to live with his mother. In his past life, Bai Yi had never even seen her have a single day of rest. Besides a new home, he wanted to gift her everything he could so she could enjoy life. Entering the spacious apartment, Bai Yi's mother was surprised. She walked through the living room, which alone was larger than the old house where they had lived. Seeing how much his mother liked the place, Bai Yi shook the broker's hand, renting the property for 15,000 per month, with several months' rent paid in advance. Upon hearing the price, the mother tried to make him reconsider, but he wanted to offer the best he could. On the same day, May 24th at night, Bai Yi's mother prepared dinner with a smile on her face, something the young man had never seen her wear before. Resting a little in the bedroom, he reviewed everything he had done in the last 24 hours. He had gotten a new house, advanced to Class D, and obtained a new profession. Still, with Bai Lingsheng being released in a few days, Bai Yi knew he couldn't let his guard down. Until that matter was completely resolved, he couldn't seek his revenge without reservations. While scraping a small stone, shaping it so he could easily carry it as a bracelet, Bai Yi remembered he would have to return to school the next day. Confident, he told himself that it was time to look for a certain thing. At that same moment, in another region, several men stepped out of a portal. Leading the group was Hong Qiangsheng, who, although irritated, was praised by the protectors accompanying him. Hurriedly, a young woman, Qiangsheng's sister, ran to him with a bottle of water to hand it over. Furious, he knocked the bottle to the ground and shouted, "While we still have time, let's go to the next labyrinth to continue training." With rage in his eyes, Hong Qiangsheng, now level 3 of Class E, Astral Rogue Profession, snorted, "No one will improve faster than me. In the next combat simulation test, I'll show everyone who the real genius is." At the same time, atop a building, a woman wearing a blazer, slippers, and a ponytail analyzed some papers in front of a floor-to-ceiling window. Reading the file in her hands, exuding a transcendental aura, she commented, "No golden rank professions among the new awakens this year. Looks like there won't be anything interesting to observe in the combat simulation test." On the morning of May 25th, several fortifying dishes were prepared. Oatmeal porridge, bean dumplings, among others. Bai Yi's mother sat happily, watching her son eat. In a hurry, Bai Yi shoved everything into his stomach, complaining about being late. "Mom, why didn't you wake me up?" With a smile on her face, she said he was sleeping so peacefully she couldn't wake him. Running her fingers through her beloved son's hair, she asked him to eat slowly, saying it was okay if he was late for the first time in a long while. Feeling the warmth of his mother's hand on his cheek, Bai Yi smiled gently. He had to agree with her. It had been a long time since he had slept so peacefully, just as he hadn't had a calm breakfast with his mother in years. Suddenly, Bai Yi felt his mother squeeze his shoulder. Surprised, he asked if something was wrong. As if wanting to return the care her son had shown, Bai Yi's mother asked if there was something he wanted. A toy, a book, or even some electronic device. Smiling, Bai Yi replied, "Mom, why do you want to give me a present so suddenly?" Haha. Pointing to the calendar on the wall near the door, Bai Yi's mother reminded him that his birthday would be the following Friday. Surprised, Bai Yi remembered his birthday date, June 5th. However, a melancholic expression appeared on his face. It had been so long since the last time he celebrated his birthday that he had forgotten the date. In Bai Yi's past life, after losing his mother, he had no one left to celebrate his birthday with. Continuing to eat the dishes his mother had prepared, Bai Yi wondered if there was something he really wanted, what he desired most. Looking at the smile on his mother's face, present at a time when, in his past life, she no longer existed, Bai Yi felt he already had what he wanted most. However, there was indeed something he wished for: to complete his next objective, to eliminate the one who had turned against him and his team after years of trust. A few hours later, Bai Yi arrived at the affiliated academy for the awakened. In an auditorium, the instructor placed his hands on his hips and announced, "All right, chicks, you all must be well rested after the weekend. Now, it's time to start the hellish preparations for the combat simulation." In front of him were dozens of students, including Bai Yi, who listened as the instructor said, "I presume none of you are unaware of the importance of the combat simulation. Our affiliated academy for the Awakened is the elementary division directly subordinate to the Divine Guild. The Guild will be watching every one of our moves, and the combat simulation is the first stage everyone must face after awakening. This battle will serve as your elementary graduation evaluation and will be broadcast live in its entirety. The instructor also reminded the excited youths that whoever performed best in the combat simulation would have the chance to participate in the training pilgrimage with the high school division. The newly awakened students were amazed, excited to discover that the training pilgrimage happened only once a year, being the best opportunity to establish contact with the Divine Guild. Crossing his arms, the instructor made them recognize the importance of that event. The school organizes the most exceptional elementary and high school students to travel together to Shengye Nation, the headquarters of the Divine Guild. A serious look appeared on Bai Yi's face upon hearing the name of that nation and its headquarters. It was there that he had met his master in his past life, ironically in prison. However, it was also in that place that his greatest enemy was born. Although that person and Bai Yi's master had never met, she had joined the Divine Corps long afterwards. To find this individual in the current timeline, achieve an extremely high score in this evaluation, and secure a spot on the training pilgrimage was the fastest path. In front of Bai Yi, an excited young man commented, "Ah, the combat simulation is this Friday. I'm so scared, but so excited, my blood is boiling." The bespectacled young man Bai Yi had met a few days before was nearby as well and said, "I heard the simulations happen inside labyrinths. Is it really safe to do that?" Although the glasses-wearing boy showed doubt, even fear, the instructor pointed to a door. "Let's officially start the training. In the first stage, you will undergo intense physical conditioning. This is the gravity room. Everyone, begin with 10 sets of shuttle runs." The young man in front of Bai Yi was so thrilled that he exclaimed, "That's it! I'm loving the training. I'm going to do 20 sets of running." Despite the others' excitement, Bai Yi kept a serious look. The group in line began to pass through the door indicated by the instructor. However, when it was Bai Yi's turn, he stopped beside the instructor and said, "Professor, I don't want to use this training room." In the academy courtyard, some students turned in surprise when they heard Bai Yi's name echo. Among them, Chi Yin and other classmates watched intently. The tall instructor approached with a serious look. "Bai Yi?" He showed no hesitation. He simply held his gaze and answered. The man crossed his arms and let out a short laugh. "I heard about your conflict with Hong Changsheng over the weekend. But don't think you can skip practice just because you defeated a red-level professional." Bai Yi's tone was firm. "It's not that. I want to do more specialized training." The instructor frowned, confused. "Specialized? What do you mean by that?" The young man took a deep breath and answered with conviction. "Some methods are useful, but not all of them apply the same way to all classes." The instructor narrowed his eyes and took a step forward, almost in a challenging tone. "Are you suggesting there's a problem with my methods? With physical conditioning?" Calmly, Bai Yi explained that not every method applied to every class. Physical conditioning was important, but not universal. The gravity room was helpful, but exercises like running were only truly useful for warriors and assassins, who depended on speed and coordination. Mages and bards, for example, would benefit far more from the elemental room, where they could improve their control over their abilities. The instructor clenched his fists, believing the young man was trying to teach him how to do his own job. From a distance, Chi Yin watched in surprise. To her, those words weren't foolish. They were identical to the method recently proposed by instructor Dongsang of the Divine Corps. Very few people knew about it, and to think that Bai Yi had come to the same conclusion on his own was almost unbelievable. The nervous classmate with glasses tried to intervene. To him, Bai Yi was being too bold. The trainer was one of the most respected figures at the school, and yet the boy spoke as if he were a veteran. The atmosphere became tense when the instructor approached and placed a hand on Bai Yi's shoulder. His friend held his breath, expecting a severe reprimand, but instead, an unexpected smile appeared on the man's face. "The method you mentioned sounds quite interesting." A wave of relief washed over his friend. The boy with glasses let out the air he was holding in his lungs, muttering that in the end, it was the teacher himself who hadn't been careful enough. The instructor took a deep breath and spoke in a serious tone. There were many students at the school, and it was impossible to attend to each one's specific needs in such a short time. For him, combat simulation was the basis of all training, and if he made a mistake while guiding a student, he could ruin someone's future. As a teacher, the responsibility was immense, deciding whether to guide each student's path or let them choose on their own. This dilemma weighed on his shoulders. Bai Yi remained firm. In silence, he thought about the past. His original family had been a disaster, but he had still been lucky to find masters who helped him grow. This time, he wouldn't let bad choices limit him. "Teacher, trust me. I won't disappoint you in the graduation simulation." The instructor crossed his arms, assessing the boy seriously. "Then tell me, how do you intend to train?" You awakened as a nuclear warrior, right? Bai looked directly at him. I want you to set the elemental room to maximum intensity. The gym fell silent. Students waiting for their turn looked at each other, surprised. Some whispered in disbelief. In the elemental room? One of the classmates commented, eyes wide. Everyone expected Bai Yi to choose the gravity room, typical for warriors. But instead, he wanted to face the place meant for mages. Bai Yi raised his chin, explaining naturally, even though I'm a warrior, I want my skills to be more balanced. I need to challenge my weaknesses. Inside, he kept his thoughts clear. He couldn't reveal to everyone that he was already planning to advance in another profession. But using the elemental room would be the perfect disguise to justify his next step. Before the conversation ended, Chi Yin raised her hand, excited. Teacher, I also want to practice elemental control. After all, I'm a mage. This time, the instructor sighed deeply, putting a hand to his forehead as if he had another headache. His expression showed the frustration of dealing with her enthusiasm. All right, do as you wish. Just don't embarrass me in the final assessment. As they walked through the gym, Chi Yin approached Bai Yi with a smile. Hey, Bai Yi, let's train together. He, however, refused bluntly. No, I'm going to a private room. The girl insisted, reminding him that training in pairs could accelerate results. But the protagonist remained firm. Chi Yin was surprised, but at the same time challenged. Ha! Now you've made me even more excited, she said, accompanying the boy toward the rooms. On the other side, the classmate with glasses sighed dejectedly. I'm already at the bottom of the class anyway. Can I just relax somewhere? The instructor, with a cold smile, put a hand on his shoulder. No. As soon as the door to the elemental room closed behind him, an oppressive wave of energy covered Bai Yi's body. The holographic panel marked Elemental Suppression, 10%. He took a deep breath. He was too used to the warrior class, but as a mage, he was still a novice. He needed to adapt as soon as possible. Every second in that room was precious. The suppression level increased quickly. 20%, 30%. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he held firm. In silence, he remembered his goal. I need to master this class as quickly as possible, but I also can't expose my true card. If they discover that I can accumulate other professions, those above, the ones who watch every move of this school, won't leave me alone. Bai Yi closed his eyes, feeling the cold of the freezing energy pass through his skin. If he revealed everything too soon, he would end up becoming a target for powerful people. On the other side of the wall, in another room, Chi Yin was training with intensity. Bai Yi, I won't let you get ahead of me. Her suppression was minimal, only 1%, but her competitiveness made her push forward eagerly. After school, Bai Yi left, pushing his bicycle through the courtyard. The afternoon sun was tinging the horizon with gold when he heard voices behind him. Hey, Bai Yi, wait up! It was Specs and Mao, running out of breath to catch up to him. He glanced back and thought, these two are still following me. In the past, Bai Yi remembered well. They had been his only true friends during high school. They all occupied the last positions in the assessments, always the target of ridicule, which is why they ended up becoming close. Between defeats and laughter, they formed an inseparable trio. Don't go so fast, Mao shouted, trying to catch his breath. In Bai Yi's memory, the scene from other times echoed, I came in second to last this time. I moved up. Now I'm in 5th. At this rate, none of us will get into high school. It was a simple, almost happy past, but also marked by mediocrity. Shaking his head, Bai Yi pedaled harder. This time is different. I can't be tied to bonds that will only delay my goal. On the other side, the two friends noticed the distance increasing. What's wrong with him? He's going alone again, Mao grumbled. I thought we were an inseparable trio, Specs added, adjusting his glasses. The two noticed something strange. Don't you think he's stronger? More confident since the awakening? Specs, breathing heavily, looked down and muttered almost to himself, why would someone on a bike wait for people who are on foot? Later they met again. Specs, Bai Yi called, stopping his bicycle for a moment. You should get your lungs checked when you have time. The boy with glasses' eyes widened, confused. His other friend smiled in relief. I knew it. You were waiting for us to leave together, weren't you? Bai Yi got on his bike and replied, No, you can't keep up with me. He yelled, red with anger. Hey! Did you stop here just to mock us? They started arguing with each other, comparing how many sets of training they had done while Bai Yi rode away. In my past life, Specs ended up being diagnosed with a lung disease. He didn't last long afterward. Even if we're not friends now, I hope that, at least in this life, he can stay healthy. At a distance, the two still watched their friend pedal, intrigued. Why did he get so cold? He's acting like an idiot, one of them complained. Specs adjusted his glasses, but a smile formed on his face. He's changed, yes, but deep down he's still the same person. The Shanghai beach was crowded. Amidst conversations about competitions, the focus always fell on one name, the rookie who had broken all records. Lying in a beach chair with a relaxed air, Mr. Dongyang, an instructor, gave a subtle smile as he said, I hear a recruit is standing out more than expected. He broke all the previous numbers. An athletic man approached. Greeting him respectfully, You're praising me too much. Mr. Dongyang, I just came to give my report. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Bai Yi was having a quiet dinner with his mother, Ruyun. The simple table reflected the modest life they led. By the way, Mom, try to avoid going out alone from now on, he said, looking up. I'll come home earlier every day and bring groceries. Ruyun smiled, but Bai Yi's firm gaze showed something more than common concern. This isn't enough, he thought. I need to guarantee her a stable and safe environment as soon as possible. Far away, night fell on the Awaken's prison. Men in orange uniforms walked in a line through the cafeteria. On the wall, a cold motto was stamped, "Repent for your mistakes. Rebuild a new life." Among them was Bai Lingsheng, Bai Yi's father. His tired face bore the scars of time, but his gaze held a dangerous spark. Upon reaching the food counter, his eyes met those of the guard serving the tray. A quick, almost imperceptible exchange. A piece of paper slipped between his fingers, disguised by the metal spoon. "I'll leave this matter in your hands," Lingsheng murmured. "Don't worry," the man replied discreetly. The message was clear. Everything was arranged for him to leave the next day. By Tuesday, the campus was already bustling with students. Bai Yi took every moment to perfect his magical control, analyzing the casting time and the exact amount of elemental energy needed to not waste strength. Meanwhile, his classmates also trained hard. "Today I can complete 10 sets," Mao yelled, full of confidence. The next day, the scene repeated itself. Exercises, sweat, and effort, each one trying to overcome their limits. Specs, though tired, didn't give up. Bai Yi, watching from afar, knew that those details could make a difference in the future. On the way out, the two friends called out to Bai Yi, "Do you want to have dinner with us today?" However, he turned his head and replied firmly, "No, thank you. I need to get home early." The two looked at each other and sighed. "He's been so cold lately," they murmured. Still, Bai Yi waved goodbye and gave some advice. "As an archer, your initial movement is too slow. Train that or you'll be an easy target." This made the young man enthusiastic and almost on fire with motivation. "Got it. I'll get better at that." On Thursday after school, Specs was called to talk with the doctor in the school's hospital wing. During the consultation, the doctor showed him the results of a scan and commented, "It's a good thing you got this checkup early. This type of parasitic tumor in the lung can develop quickly once it starts growing." The doctor explained that he needed to schedule surgery at a larger hospital as soon as possible, but that after the removal he would be fine. Half relieved and half scared, Specs thanked him. "Thank you. I'll schedule the appointment next week." At that moment, Bai Yi's words echoed in his mind. "You need to get your lungs checked when you have time." A shiver ran through Specs. If it weren't for the school physical, he would never have included a chest CT scan. He began to wonder, astonished. How did he know there was a problem with my lungs? What happened to Bai Yi? Going down the stairs with a heavy heart, Specs was reflecting on this but was interrupted when he heard classmates whispering in the corridors. "Hey, did you hear? Changsheng cheated again." "What? He's already reached C-class level 4? Then he'll definitely come in first in the assessment." Another student, indignant, replied, "How did he get that so fast? You'd normally have to go through a labyrinth to level up." One of them crossed his arms and added, Don't you know? His family has a private training ground, exclusively for hunting monsters." Specs listened to every detail intently, hidden behind the wall. Then someone added, "By the way, remember that guy who provoked him last weekend? He plans to settle the score today after school." Scared, Specs realized the seriousness of the situation. The classmates also added, "This time he's armed and it'll be outside school grounds. He's definitely planning to kill him." Specs' face went pale, a cold sweat breaking out at the inevitable conclusion. Something terrible was about to happen. Specs' heart pounded erratically. The words he had overheard about Changsheng's plans echoed in his mind like a death sentence. He knew Bai Yi was in real danger, and that this time there was no one to protect him but himself. For a moment he hesitated. His legs trembled and a cruel thought struck him. What could I do? I'm weak, untalented. If I go, I'll just end up dead. But then, the memory of the moment Bai Yi had warned him about his lungs surfaced. Thanks to him, he had discovered a disease that could have ended his life. Bai Yi had given him back the hope of living. With tear-filled eyes, he clenched his fists and ran through the school corridors. "Even if I die, I have to save my brother." Arriving in front of the locked armory, his gasping breath revealed his fear, but also his determination. With a desperate lunge, he broke the padlock, and the metallic echo of the splintering metal spread through the empty corridor. Before the shelves full of weapons, his eyes found a huge hatchet with a silver blade. He lifted it with both hands, his arms trembling more from the weight of responsibility than the weapon itself. "Bai, hold on," he yelled. However, his shouts and the noise of the break-in caught the attention of a young girl with red hair. She stared at him, surprised to see him armed and ready to fight. "Why are you trying to break into the armory? What's going on? You seem to be in a big hurry." Without a second thought, he yelled, "I have to go. I need to save Bai Yi." Meanwhile, outside, Bai Yi was walking calmly, but he had already noticed he was being followed from the moment he left school. Stopping in a narrow alley, he gave a cold and challenging look. "You're here. You've been following me the whole way. What do you want?" From the shadows, Changsheng emerged, enveloped by a dark and threatening aura. His eyes burned with fury as he said, "It's obvious. I came to settle the score with you for what happened last weekend." Bai Yi didn't back down. He turned, facing him firmly, and with an almost defiant tone, he replied, Oh yeah? So you really think you can defeat me now? With arrogance and releasing the full power of his ability, Jiangsheng advanced with explosive speed. His figure distorted in the air like a blur of red flames. You think all my training was for nothing? I'm going to finish you. In an instant, he activated another deadly technique. Backstab, blink behind. In a treacherous move, Jiangsheng disappeared before Bai Yi's eyes, reappearing right behind him, ready to attack from the back. Bai Yi instantly took out his dagger from his space and confronted him, managing to dodge and counterattacking in an unexpected way. Hong Kangsheng, who had advanced with boundless confidence, was forced to retreat when he noticed something impossible. My attack, he widened his eyes, feeling his arms tremble. It's weaker than his? How could it be? He had trained relentlessly, perfecting his techniques, convinced that he would surpass Bai Yi. Our hero stared at him with dark, golden eyes. You really thought, his voice echoed grimly, filled with authority, that you were the only one who got stronger? In an agile move, Bai Yi spun his twin swords, the cutting gleam reflecting the evening light. Jiangsheng stood still, unable to find an opening. In their first fight, he had believed the difference between them was small. But now, faced with that suffocating presence, he finally understood. No matter how much he trained, no matter how much time he dedicated, the abyss between them was insurmountable. The silence of the street was broken only by the heavy breathing of the two combatants. Hong Qiangsheng was down, pinned to the ground by Bai Yi's force. His gaze was filled with despair and disbelief. You leveled up too? He shouted, unable to believe what he was seeing. How? How is that possible? All this time, Qiangsheng had trained tirelessly. After classes, he stayed for extra sessions late into the night, fighting to reach level 4. Every effort, every drop of sweat had been dedicated to surpassing his limits. Yet, even after so much dedication, he couldn't even scratch the power that now stood before him. Bai Yi stood firm. A cold smile formed on his lips as he replied, "Hard work? You talk as if you're the only one to fight to the limit." His gaze was golden, and his whole aura darkened menacingly as he added, "But tell me, Qiangsheng, have you ever died?" These words cut through the air like a blade. Qiangsheng's body trembled, not just from the pressure of the weapon at his throat. Still, Qiangsheng did not back down in his fury. "Cut it out. Do what you want with me. Kill me, torture me, it doesn't matter." "But I know you've always looked down on me as if I were inferior." Bai Yi remained silent for a few moments. Then he took a deep breath and replied with a disturbing calm, "Yes, I looked at you that way, but don't think it's hate. In fact, I don't feel that much resentment." Still holding his opponent's neck, he added, "You followed me all this time, but you didn't ambush me. You didn't call for reinforcements. You came alone. That just shows that what you really wanted was to test your strength against mine." Hong gritted his teeth, unable to stand hearing that. "Enough talk!" he shouted. "Either kill me now or wait until the day I kill you. But stop talking to me as if you can see through everything I am." Bai Yi sighed, looked to the side, and replied, "Yeah, I take back what I said about not feeling hate for you." Further away, our hero's two friends watched, huddled behind the wall, almost tripping over each other. "Look, they're right there," Spencer said. The girl with a worried expression just whispered, "But it seems like now. There's nothing we can do." They continued to spy nervously, while Bai Yi remained seated on the fallen enemy. With a firm, cold voice, he declared, "Actually, I was waiting for you. Let's make a deal." A heavy silence took over the alley, and the young Qiangsheng's eyes widened when he heard, "I can tell you a way to get stronger, much faster." Qiangsheng was confused, but he saw his opponent's expression. His eyes were even more golden as he imposed his condition. "In exchange, you'll have to give me something." May 29th arrived. Friday, the day of the assessment. After a whole week of intensive training, the students were finally gathered in the academy's large auditorium. The murmur of the crowd ceased when the instructors entered. The main professor, with his arms crossed, announced in a firm tone, "The week of training has ended. Now the combat simulation will begin." A heavy silence hung in the air. The instructor continued, making it clear that despite the name, it was not a simple test. "Don't be mistaken. You will enter a real labyrinth." The tension grew among the students. The man explained that the energy of the place had been contained by barriers, but there were still genuine dangers. Monsters were inside, waiting, and a mistake could be costly. To ensure safety, veterans from the advanced division would be assigned to accompany the groups. They would not intervene unless the students' lives were at risk, but would serve as guides and protectors of last resort. They would all be divided into teams of 5, and each group would have a veteran as a leader. "Cooperation will be essential," the instructor commented. However, there was a choice to be made. Freshmen could choose between entering a simpler Class F labyrinth or risking a more challenging Class E labyrinth. The instructor warned bluntly, "Of course the Class E dungeon is very difficult. If you don't have enough strength, I don't recommend you challenge it. Failing the challenge can result in a loss of academic credits." Everyone was prepared for the moment of decision in silence. And the next moment, the instructor raised his hand and asked, "Who chooses the Class E labyrinth? Raise your hand." Few dared to respond. Among them, Qi Yin and also Changsheng stood out, who seemed determined to prove his strength. The rest of the room watched in surprise. Spencers even whispered that it was insane to challenge such a dangerous instance. In total, only 8 out of 180 students volunteered for Class E. That's when the unexpected happened. Before the division was completed, a clear voice echoed in the hall. "Wait a moment, Professor." Everyone turned. Our protagonist, who had remained silent until then, took a step forward. His gaze was firm, confident, and his words left the audience in shock. "I would like to challenge the Class D Jade Labyrinth." He was simply daring to face a labyrinth above the initial proposal. The entire gym went silent for a moment after the bold declaration. Soon, the professor conducting the selection widened his eyes, surprised at what he had heard. The students burst into exclamations. "What? That's insane," he said. "D-class?" The buzz took over the room. No one could believe that someone would dare to jump straight into such a high-level challenge. "You must be kidding. Who in their right mind jumped straight into a Class D dungeon?" Another incredulous student exclaimed. One of the instructors tried to intervene. "A Class D demon cave is too dangerous. Normally, only high school veterans would risk something like that." But the boy didn't back down. Standing with a firm look in his eyes, he replied, "The school manual is clear. The dungeon level is the student's choice. The combat training rules allow me to select my own challenge." He continued speaking, his voice echoing firmly through the gym. "The school's mission is to recruit talent for the Divine Core, and the criteria for talent are courage, strength, responsibility, and gifts. If I don't get the chance to demonstrate that now, how will I prove my worth?" Of course, this made the director hesitate, but the boy stared directly at him, stating, "Director, are you really going to stop me from showing what I'm capable of?" The director cleared his throat, trying to maintain authority. "Our caves require team entry. It's a safety rule." But the response came like a blade cutting through the air. "I can go alone." But still, the director stood firm with a look that seemed to be cutting our protagonist. "It's the safety rule for students." It was then that a female voice echoed from behind the crowd. "If that's the case, I also choose Class D." Everyone turned around, startled. Qi Yin, raising her hand firmly, displayed a confident smile, her eyes shining like flames.
Qi Yin?
Some colleagues exclaimed, incredulous. Everyone was surprised by their classmates' audacity. Even the director was taken aback. "Are you going crazy?" he asked. "If something happens to you, how can I face your father?" However, the girl replied animatedly that she also wanted to achieve the highest score, and that's why she really wanted to try. Before the discussion could continue, our protagonist raised his hand. "I refuse. I want to do this clearing alone." That got to the girl, who instantly turned, annoyed. "What?" Refusing again? The instructor intervened with a grave voice, ending the discussion. "His refusal doesn't count." The director sighed, not believing what he was hearing. Unbelievable. One after the other. They've barely awakened a week ago and already think their wings are strong enough. The instructor then, analyzing the situation, commented, "In that case, the expedition to the D-rank den will be just with the two of you." There was a silence, until, unexpectedly, a third voice emerged from among the veterans. An older student with a confident posture and a sharp smile raised his hand. "I'll go. The flowers of our nation still need someone to protect them." The instructor immediately relaxed, showing a rare smile. "If Xiling goes along, then I can be at ease." Upon hearing this, Qian's eyes widened, whispering impressed, "Xiling? He almost joined the Ultimate School Corps." The protagonist, on the other hand, just narrowed his eyes, staring at the veteran coldly. Ultimate School Corps? Xiling? Facing the veteran, Baiyi claimed that he had never heard of him. Xiling, with a wry smile, mocked inwardly. Another peacock who doesn't know his own limits. So eager to show off his feathers in front of everyone without even measuring his worth. The professor raised his hand, and with a firm movement, he opened the scarlet portal that spun with pulsating energy. "Very well. The teams are set. We will begin the simulation test immediately." Inside the caves, drones were already positioned, ready to record every detail. The voice of the evaluator echoed firm. "Inside the simulation, you will be accompanied by professional equipment. Nothing will be hidden. Every step will be recorded." The crowd stirred, anxious for the spectacle that was about to begin. "So give it your all," the instructor declared, his voice reverberating through the arena. "Let's see who can achieve the highest score this time." But for our hero, that was already a given. The Awakened Academy was built on the ruins of a former great demon cave, sealed in the past, but which still emanated enough energy to give rise to countless smaller portals around it. These portals, unstable and vibrant, served as a training ground, from the lowest levels to the most dangerous. In the academy courtyard, dozens of portals glowed in distinct colors, each leading to a different challenge. Middle and high school students gathered in groups. It was in this scenario that the selection for the simulated battles would begin. The portals varied in intensity. Many were only level F to D, controlled and adapted so that students could face their first trials. Upon crossing these portals, the simulation began immediately, and the entire process was monitored by cameras and broadcast drones. Nothing would escape the eyes of the evaluators. evaluators and the recordings. Among the groups, 3 figures stood out. The protagonist, serious and with a sharp gaze, walked alongside his classmate Chi Yin and the veteran Zeeling, who would accompany them on that incursion. A drone hovered over them, a reminder that every move would be recorded. Bai Yi reflected to himself, I can't reveal all my cards right from the start. Every step needs to be calculated. This cave, the demon cave of Lingyu, is where I'll find what I want. Thus, the 3 of them crossed the bluish veil of the portal together. Entering the darkness of the simulation, Xiling walked ahead with a confident air, letting out a presumptuous laugh. Don't worry, I'll protect all of you, he said, opening his arms in false generosity. Even in unsealed D-level caves, I've been here before and came out victorious with other groups. Chi Yin, curious but also apprehensive, looked at him and asked, how strong are the monsters inside a D-rank cave? The veteran replied with some pride. Normally, they range from E to D rank, something around level 5 to 15. And of course, the strongest monsters are sealed by the school system. Rarely does anything above that appear, much less a boss. He then paused and added in a more serious tone, but don't underestimate high-level E-rank creatures. Some have speed and attack power capable of overwhelming even careless hunters. Qian swallowed hard at the remark, but Xiling soon smiled arrogantly again. Relax. I'll hunt some weaker monsters for you to gain credits. After all, your veteran is here, and I won't let juniors like you get hurt. As he spoke, he tried to impose himself as the natural leader, but the protagonist, who had been silent until then, simply walked straight past him, taking the lead. Xiling frowned. Hey, don't go so far ahead. If you advance like that, you might scare the monsters, and before he could finish, the young man turned his head, his golden eyes shining intensely, and replied coldly, You talk too much. Stay behind me. I don't need your help. The veteran gritted his teeth, irritated by that insolence and confidence. The hidden cameras began to live stream every step of the groups that had entered the portals. Outside, a crowd of students and teachers followed the unfolding of the simulated combat on giant screens. In one of the more restricted halls, inside the ultimate campus, important figures also watched intently. The room was in semi-darkness, illuminated only by the glow of the screens showing dozens of silhouettes crossing the labyrinths. Leaning back, relaxed against the wall, the vice captain of the ultimate campus opened a curious smile upon noticing something peculiar on the monitor. Captain, take a look at this broadcast. It's going to be fun. One of the rookies chose a D-rank dungeon directly. On the other side of the room, a woman with a presence partially covered by shadow spoke firmly, but full of interest. Oh? And what class is he? The vice captain replied, That's what makes it even more hilarious. He's just a green warrior, the most useless class of all. A silence hung in the air, but the interest grew. I want to see where so much confidence comes from. In another location, a desperate Specs was brandishing a magic tambourine as if it were his only defense. Don't come any closer, he yelled as winged monsters dived at him. He was inside the Class F sealed labyrinth. Creatures known as flaming bats and vicious cats attacked without a truce. Although they were only low class, their ferocity was terrifying for beginners. The veteran of that group tried to calm him down, commenting, You just need to stay in the back and keep up the buffs. There's no need to be so nervous, but the boy trembled. His wide eyes couldn't hide his fear. Why is a Class F labyrinth so scary? He thought as more monsters appeared ahead. Meanwhile, at another point in the tests in the Class E sealed labyrinth, the scenario wasn't much different. Creatures resembling a kind of ferocious, saber-toothed animal known as a star ferret, Class G, equivalent to Class E, were attacking. Students were falling wounded, needing to be treated in a hurry by classmates with healing abilities. There was Chengsheng, he roared amidst the chaos. If you can't handle this, then let me face it alone. His body glowed red, his ability's aura activating in the middle of combat. In front of him, the savage creature howled, but he didn't hesitate. The blade in his hands cut with full force, his ferocity activated, giving him strength, critical hits, and more lifesteal. Even in the middle of the chaos, his thoughts were only on one thing. Bai Yi, I'm going to surpass you, even if it's the last thing I do. Meanwhile, in the Class D sealed labyrinth, the protagonist was already advancing mercilessly. His strike glowed green, cutting through the air and then tearing apart a gigantic beast that roared with its fangs bared. The system soon notified, Success. Rage Mane defeated. Class G, E-Class. Experience plus 30. The ground was covered in blood, the bodies of fallen beasts everywhere. He remained standing, motionless, observing the trail of destruction he had left behind. Behind him, his colleagues arrived, astonished. Chi Yin, with her eyes shining with amazement, could hardly believe it. How did you do that? She approached Bai Yi as he replied, The monsters here are all sealed. They can only use half their strength. Even so, they're not that difficult to deal with. She was enthusiastic, stating, Even with half their strength, you still faced several at once. It seems I still have a long way to go to catch up to you. It was then that he stopped, giving her a firm look over his shoulder. There's no need to compare yourself to others. Just focus on being yourself. Qian smiled with determination, holding her grimoire against her chest. Hey, do you always have to talk in that cold way? I'm going to do my best. she said animatedly, trying to lighten the tension. But behind her, the veteran's gaze hardened. His thoughts were filled with bitterness. "You stole all the spotlight, you damn brat!" He crossed his arms and in a severe tone warned, "This is a Class D labyrinth. It's best not to get carried away by arrogance. Be careful." Despite his words, envy was evident in his every gesture, and yet he continued his charade of leadership. "Your performance so far has been commendable, but don't forget, this is your first time in a labyrinth. Besides, it's a 3-chamber one, which makes it even more dangerous. As your senior, I should give some advice." But it seemed that our protagonist didn't care at all. Bai just pointed and said, "Chi-yin, you handle the monsters that come from the right, and I'll take the left." He walked past his veteran, who stood in silence, not knowing what to do. Ahead, the scarlet glow of a huge magic seal emanated from the heart of the cave. The bodies of slain beasts lay on the ground, and even knowing he was in a hostile environment, the veteran gritted his teeth, almost losing control. "Ignoring me again." As they walked through the tunnel, Bai asked, "The monsters on that side are a lower level. Can you handle them alone?" She became thoughtful, not knowing what could happen. The senior, annoyed, thought, "This boy has no respect for his elders." Bai then added in a firm tone before his next challenge, "This combat simulation is a test of each person's individual ability. You came here to be evaluated after all. Don't you want to get a good grade?" he reinforced. Determined, she nodded, clutching the grimoire to her chest. "Understood. I can do this!" Ahead, the red portal pulsed more and more strongly, bathing the ground covered with the bodies of the fallen monsters. The veteran watched in silence, resentment overflowing in his thoughts. "Damn it! It seems you prefer to do things the hard way." And in the next instant, he activated his bow, an energy of golden light pouring out. Baiyi's performance was displayed on all the screens in the staff room, and they couldn't contain their surprise. "Unbelievable!" someone exclaimed, unable to believe that Baiyi had taken down so many E-rank monsters by himself. "What's his level now?" a staff member asked, intrigued. "The report still shows E1, but it's hard to be sure," another replied, astonished. "Impossible. At least E3, or even E4. The instructor crossed his arms, analyzing the situation and thinking. He not only noticed the elemental pattern, but also assigned the right monsters to the team. The flower mage dominates the star element. He distributed them perfectly. Even though it was an individual assessment, Bai Yi was using a commander's strategy. It was as if he saw the entire chessboard. The instructor remembered the time our protagonist asked him to trust him, because he wouldn't be disappointed in this simulation. The instructor let out a smile. That boy wasn't bluffing. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Bai Yi advanced against a colossal beast. As he thought, all the stellar monsters are coming from the right. The time is now. At the same time, Chi-yin took advantage of the opening to cast flower spells, entangling lower-level creatures in a web of vines. The monstrous creature with glowing purple eyes advanced towards Chi-yin, roaring fiercely. The young woman raised her grimoire, releasing green energy spells that spread like vines around. "Vine wall!" she shouted, causing thorny roots to emerge and trap the gigantic insect. She cast the same spell again to increase its intensity. The vines contracted around the creature, piercing its carapace. Blood splattered as the poison effect began to corrode the enemy's body. A message appeared before her. Poison effect activated. At her command, the thorns dug in even deeper, tearing the creature apart from the inside. As a result, the monster fell defeated, and the message informed her that the E-level insect had been defeated, giving her 30 more experience points. Chi-yin took a deep breath, her eyes shining with joy and pride. "I did it again," she said, raising her fist in celebration. Bai Yi analyzed his colleague's performance from afar, and was truly surprised because mages, upon reaching E-rank, begin to possess a basic class ability. And her ability to use plants to create a poisonous wall had a great effect. Vine Wall used plants to quickly grow vines that form a wall, whose thorns carry a certain poisonous effect. But still, she was facing higher-level monsters alone in such a calm manner on her very first time in the dungeon. She really has talent, he thought. She even thought of surrounding the enemy with the wall and reducing the area to take it down, proof of her aptitude. Coming to a wall that contained a seal of various elements, he knew that the D-rank ones were likely still sealed. He looked back at Chi-yin, seeing her face other creatures, knowing she could handle them at that moment. He narrowed his eyes, thinking, even with the live broadcast, I can hide some of my strength and still guarantee a good score. But on second thought, with the broadcast equipment in here, they can follow every step. What should I do next? Meanwhile, the veteran frowned in anger, as he couldn't believe the audacity of his rookies. Do they really think they have that ability? They don't believe that I, the class representative, deserve respect. If they can only depend on themselves, then let's see how far they'll go. He conjured a bow and pointed it at Chi-yin with a smug smile and released an arrow. So let's test that. She looked up, surprised, to see the concentrated energy heading her way, but it passed right by, going toward a small cave in the area. Chi-Yin barely had time to dodge. What? She murmured, astonished by the unexpected attack. The veteran shrugged in a false tone of apology. Oh, I just wanted to give you a buff, but it seems I missed the target. But before he could react, a roar echoed from the depths of the cave. The ground trembled as a massive shadow advanced at high speed, forcing everyone to turn their attention to the entrance. A two-headed lion, Class D, emerged from the darkness, its two heads showing menacing fangs and its eyes glowing red. Chi-Yin took a step back, surprised and tense before the monster. Bai Yi turned his head when he felt the pressure in the air and noticed the new danger. Trapped by the burning vines, the two-headed lion roared with fury, trying to break free as the heat consumed part of its mane. Chi-Yin, still focused on maintaining the barrier, breathed with difficulty. Sweat trickled down her face, but she persisted until she realized that the flames were quickly weakening her vines. The monster advanced against her, its mouth open, ready to crush her. Terror was stamped on her eyes, but before she could react, the veteran archer pulled his bow, a confident smile appearing on his face. Suddenly, Bai Yi jumped with a surreal speed. In an instant, he was already above the creature, which still displayed its fangs. He delivered a quick slash in the air, but soon felt another wave of danger. Looking to the side, he saw Chi-Yin almost tripping in front of one of the monster's heads. Without hesitation, Bai Yi positioned himself in front of her and launched a blow that hit the beast squarely. Even wounded, the two-headed monster rose roaring, still covered in flames. Bai Yi then raised his dagger, facing it firmly, unable to believe that the creature could be so fast. The veteran smiled grimly, analyzing the situation. He knew this dungeon well. Most D-rank monsters were sealed, but this pair of two-headed lions would keep appearing non-stop. Faced with the beasts that were still roaring in flames, the veteran continued to think, even if you think you're strong, how will you deal with monsters like this? And if it were an even stronger enemy, what would you do? The golden glow that ran through the beasts' bodies was an attribute increase that he had boosted with his ability. The system had also announced that the strength of their attack was 10 times more, and the damage received would be reduced. The roars echoed louder, and the veteran completed in an arrogant tone, "The fastest two-headed lion of them all!" A red notification appeared there. Buff applied, attack plus 10%, speed plus 50%. Bai Yi gripped his dagger, his serious gaze reflecting the greenish glow of his energy, thinking, it can't be. Will I have to use all my strength? Bai Yi placed himself in front of Chi-Yin, holding his dagger firm. Step back. This monster is too much for you now. Chi-Yin pressed her lips together, surprised. I just felt a chill, she thought, still scared by the pressure of the beast. The two-headed lion roared in flames, advancing against them. Chi-Yin raised her grimoire and shouted, Vine Wall! The plants grew in a spiral, trying to contain the creature's advance. The impact shook the air, but she didn't stop. One more layer, she shouted, forcing new thorny roots to entwine. The monster was trapped again, roaring in fury. Chi-Yin raised her arm firmly. Triple Vine Wall! The deafening roar echoed, and Bai Yi narrowed his eyes in surprise. It was then that she asked, Can you let me fight with you? I promise I won't get in the way. Determined, she completed with confidence. Even if it's a D-rank monster, I want to face it by your side. The veteran, watching from a distance, frowned with disdain, thinking, These two, haven't they learned anything? A moment ago they were almost eaten. Bai Yi looked away at Chi-Yin, surprised by her posture. He believed she would retreat in fear, but she was ready to adjust the strategy with him. She raised her grimoire and replied immediately, Of course, I trained too hard to give up here. I won't fall in a place like this. She stared at him firmly, and with a smile completed her statement. Besides, with you here, I won't die. Bai Yi maintained his serious posture and warned her, You just used a 3-layer technique. That consumes a lot of energy. You can't afford to waste strength in the next round. She nodded quickly, excited to be by his side. At that very moment, a memory came to Bai Yi's mind. In her previous life, Chi-Yin already stood out from the beginning. Confident and charismatic, she was known for her natural leadership. Still in high school, she had already become the class representative, always taking on responsibilities. Later, when he lost sight of her, she ended up leading a common life. But now she showed herself to be someone worth trusting. As they walked side by side, Bai Yi adjusted his thoughts. As long as nothing unexpected happens, I'll be able to hide my strength and pass this assessment without drawing attention. Meanwhile, the veteran watched from a distance, unable to believe that those two would be able to handle it. When the lion roared, trying to free itself from the vines, the veteran gritted his teeth and thought, These binds won't last even a few seconds. Real battle isn't just about confidence. With the strength they have, they'll never be able to handle a strengthened D-rank beast. His tone intensified even more. When they get to the point of begging for help, I'll show them what discipline and hierarchy mean. The beasts roared louder, breaking part of the burning vines. Bai Yi kept his eyes fixed on the lion and had an idea. I'll attract its attention. It's aggressive and focused, so you need to know the right moment. Qi Yin nodded quickly. The ground trembled when the beast leaped towards them, breaking rocks and raising dust around. Run! Bai Yi shouted, each going in a different direction. Since I wounded it the most, it will now prioritize me as a target, our protagonist thought, with the aggro completely on him. The flaming lion charged with fury, but Bai Yi dove into the water, disappearing beneath the surface. The impact created violent waves behind him. The two-headed creature didn't hesitate, and also plunged into the lake, roaring as the fire on its body was muffled by the water. Bai Yi swam at speed, his gaze firm as he calculated, now's the chance. The beast tried to keep up with him even underwater, advancing ferociously. At that moment, Bai Yi signaled with determination, now! Outside, Qi Yin responded without hesitation, raising her grimoire. Fine wall. The green energy currents passed through the water's surface, and thorns emerged like snakes, wrapping around the beast's body. The roar of the two-headed lion echoed through the field, still trapped among the poisonous vines. Qi Yin raised her grimoire and with firmness ordered, collect! The plants reacted immediately, violently tightening their grip on the beast's body. Several notifications appeared, reporting an uncontrolled fury and a temporary immunity to control, but soon after, poison effect active also appeared. She maintained control of the creature, which made Bai Yi confident to advance. Now you can't escape! He smiled faintly and added, with this it has no way to break free. It's time to end the test and secure the maximum score. The veteran's eyes widened in shock. Impossible! How did those vines manage to hold the lion? He knew he had buffed the creature, and yet it was completely trapped. Even if I hadn't boosted it so much, it should still have been unbeatable, he thought, gritting his teeth. Meanwhile, outside, the evaluators watched the battle unfold attentively. One of them commented, the beast's weak point was obvious. They forced it into the water, nullifying its abilities, and then reinforced it with containment magic. A simple but effective strategy, the instructor added with a satisfied smile. That's not all. His reaction on the field and the coordination between the two are far above average. You can see his command of the situation. Everyone watched attentively as the end of the test was approaching. Now all that's left is the final blow. If they complete it, they'll finish with a flourish, and perhaps achieve the highest score ever recorded. In the arena, the body of the two-headed lion lay motionless. Suddenly, the transmission signal was lost. The screen went completely blank. The transmission is down, someone shouted, perplexed. Damn it! How could this happen right now? Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, the veteran smiled faintly, holding his golden bow tight. He thought arrogantly, without video records, there's no proof. Let's see how they'll get the maximum points without witnesses. Shortly after, the notification appeared before them. Mission accomplished. Two-headed lion defeated. 400 experience. Qi Yin turned to him commenting, wow, I only succeeded because I followed your instructions. Bai Yi in turn corrected her calmly. No, it was because you trained your elemental resistance so well. That's the only way a common ability worked so effectively to trap a creature of that level. Qi Yin's eyes widened, surprised. Elemental resistance? He confirmed, looking at her firmly. Exactly. Without it, no magic would have worked the way it did just now. The veteran approached with an arrogant tone. Very well, you defeated the boss. Then he turned, stating, now, get out of here. Bai Yi confronted him. Do you really think it's right to throw a D-rank monster at rookies? It could have killed us. What kind of veteran does something like that? The man laughed, trying to hide it. I already told you it was to give her a training boost. Who told her to? But he was interrupted. Your level is also quite low, Bai Yi stated. The veteran's eyes narrowed in anger, but our protagonist still continued. If that's your notion of precision, it's no wonder you weren't chosen for the elite team. The veteran's smile disappeared, and fury took over him. What did you say? He shouted, pulling out his bow wrapped in golden energy again. Bai Yi stood in front of Qi Yin, firm, while the veteran glared at them angrily, not hiding his resentment. With disdain, he put away his weapon, spinning it in his hand before turning his back. There's still a long way to go. You two just wait, he growled, walking away to the red portal. As they walked, Bai Yi saw something that caught his attention. The drone was on the ground. He crouched down, noticing it, while Qi Yin huffed, crossing her arms. That veteran is really annoying. Curious, she came closer, seeing what was happening. That veteran sabotaged the transmission. He doesn't want us to get the points, Bai Yi murmured, analyzing the situation. Then he just smiled faintly. Actually, he ended up helping me. Now I have the chance to do what I really want. Qi Yin was confused about what he meant. The young man approached the circle, the dagger in his hands reflecting the glow of the seal. Qi Yin, what's about to happen here? Can it stay between us, he asked. What are you going to do anyway? She retorted, not hiding her apprehension. Without answering, Bai Yi took a crystal wrapped in dark energy from his belongings. This is the unlocking core. I've had it since my uncle gave it to me. He raised the crystal, and the seal reacted immediately with red lines that pulsed like living fire. I'm going to use this spirit to break the seal, he declared, pressing the crystal against the ground. Qi Yin shouted, startled. No, that's a D-rank monster seal. If you break it, all of them will escape. The crystal pulsed red, releasing a dense energy. The seal's runes began to shatter, scattering sparks in the air. Bai Yi replied, relax. Even if they're free, they'll still be under the influence of the seal. Their strength will be limited, but she protested nervously. Even so, the two of us alone won't be able to handle so many D-ranks. Bai Yi raised his hand, interrupting. Not the two of us. He was intensifying his aura. She widened her eyes, surprised. What are you planning? The reddish glow took over his body. An ardent aura spread, and his posture changed completely. It'll be just me alone, Bai Yi declared. This would be impossible. He had completely changed classes, transforming into a mage. The young man looks firmly at his companion, and in a commanding tone, tells her to head toward the exit. In the next instant, the ground trembles and terrifying roars echo from the darkness, revealing several ferocious-looking beasts advancing toward them, wrapped in flames and fury. The girl gets scared, yells for him to be careful, but it's already too late. The creatures leap into the charge. Before they can reach them, an intense blue electric discharge explodes in the air, enveloping the monsters. Our protagonist, now wielding his magic staff, activates his transformation. A luminous notification appears, revealing his new class. Ice Mage Level 5, Class E. He raises the weapon and orders coldly, freeze. A icy wave runs through the field, instantly freezing the flaming monsters. Qi Yin, astonished, watches the scene and can hardly believe what she sees. That's a red class? I could barely contain one lion. And you froze 3 at once? Facing the monsters paralyzed by the ice, he maintains his calm, but warns, these monsters have been sealed for too long. When the barrier crumbles, they will all come out at once. I need a bigger field to fight. The ground begins to tremble as the monsters run at high speed, exhaling a flaming aura that illuminates the darkness of the forest. One of the monsters, identified as Flaming Beast, Level D, appears ahead with its fangs bared, ready to attack. Despite its classification, it was weakened by the long time of sealing, its strength reduced by half. Bai Yi doesn't back down. Holding his weapon firmly, he concentrates energy and invokes the spell, Freeze. The monster's flames are quickly suffocated by the conjured snowstorm. The mage's ability is revealed, Ice Control, capable of restricting enemies and nullifying their movements. Without wasting time, he changes posture. His gaze hardens, activating the Core Warrior swap. His body is wrapped in an intense green aura, and right in front of him appears a flaming beast with incandescent fangs, identified as Fire Sword Fangs. Bai Yi, however, maintains a calm gaze and comments with disdain, "Trying to attack me by surprise?" In a fluid movement, he dodges and, without wasting time, changes class again. His body glows red and blue, revealing the notification, Elemental Mage Swap, Ice Attribute. With the staff in hand, he channels the icy power and fires a devastating spell. The freezing wave explodes, covering the beast, immobilizing it completely. Qi Yin, watching from a distance, widens her eyes in shock. He can switch classes that fast? Besides, just by seeing the way he's operating now, I could understand why he wanted to enter the elemental room back then. The reason for training elemental resistance, the essence of the mage class, in fact, is to release energy directly in the form of natural forces or manipulate objects of the same element within a certain area. She remembered a moment before, when she thought that the stronger her mana was and the greater the number of conjurations, the stronger she could become, but seeing the way he controls, she realized that the most important thing was the mastery over the power. She watched him raise his staff as she thought, the power of the elements comes from nature. It's wild, primitive, and very difficult to tame. Only by completely mastering one's own elemental force is it possible to create more variations of techniques. Even a basic skill can generate so many different ways of using it. When he used his freezing power, managing to immobilize all the creatures at once, she was impressed by how he had already achieved all this so naturally. Qi Yin, still breathless after witnessing such a display of power, put her hand to her chest and thought, astonished. All of us were left behind by him a long time ago. She bit her lip in anger for a moment, but then her face flushed and a small, shy smile escaped as she murmured, "He's truly incredible." The relief, however, was short-lived. A heavy step echoed like thunder, and a colossal shadow emerged from the darkness. The system notification appeared before them. That was the dungeon boss, the spiritual mammoth lord, level 15 and class D. Its elemental power was reduced by half due to the sealed state. Bai Yi's gaze narrowed. He looked at the monster and thought with determination, finally, "You've appeared." The creature was 3 times his size. Bai Yi reacted immediately. A wave of green energy enveloped his body. Once again, he switched classes, taking taking on the core warrior role. With his blade in hand, he faced the beast and declared with conviction, "What I'm looking for is in you." The clash was inevitable. The mastodon charged with fury, but Bai Yi spun his weapon in a precise cut, opening a wound from which scarlet blood gushed. As the liquid splattered on his face, he remained cool and concluded in his thoughts. Even a level 15 monster, after being sealed for so long, is no more than the strength of a level 10. The dungeon boss roared in despair, its colossal tusks swinging violently. Bai Yi made a swift leap, delivering successive cuts to various parts of the creature with furious blows. In a few moments, the mammoth collapsed to the ground, defeated. Bai Yi's eyes glowed gold as a flaming aura erupted from his body. He raised the blade and announced his technique, purification. In a single movement, a wave of sacred fire swept through the arena. The mammoth's body was thrown backward, wrapped in flames, while system notifications echoed before him. Success. T-rank monster, flaming beast defeated. Experience gained, 110 points. After eliminating the smaller enemies, a series of notifications began to appear in quick succession. Then, the most impactful one appeared before his eyes. Success in eliminating spiritual leader. Level 15, Class D. Reward, 1,000 experience points. Along with that, he was awarded rare bones and a special material called Jade Tooth, used in the forging of high-level core weapons. The system displayed his status window, showing the collection of elemental cores he had already accumulated. Bai Yi took a deep breath, firmly holding on to his new conquest. As he walked away, something on the ground caught his attention. A glowing, pink-toned stone. A new notification flashed before him. It was the resonant jade stone, a pair of gems with unique properties. Bai Yi smiled slightly and thought, "Finally, I got you." If you enjoyed today's recap and want more Manhwa content, subscribe to the channel. We're starting this journey now, and I hope that together we can strengthen this new community. So go ahead and like the video, comment for future parts, and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time.